Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of The Market Open. We are live. It is Wednesday, April 1st. We are officially in the month of April, which is a little crazy considering that is entering the fourth month of 2026. It has happened rather quickly, but we are officially here. And you know, as we have entered into the month of April, we are entering in on a relatively green note. Yesterday was green, and it looks like there is a chance for today to be just as green, or at least hold the green that we had yesterday. Pre-markets, we are up, baby, 0.62%. We'll talk about why we're up. S&P 500, 654. We moved up almost 20 points yesterday. 20 points. I mean, we were pushing almost below 630 on Sunday night or Friday last week, and now we are at 650, and it's quite incredible to see that rebound. The question today is going to be, can it hold? I think there's a lot of perspectives here on it. Is this fake? Is this a dead cat bounce? Is this real? Are the headlines actually being interpreted in a way that's positive? Is a 2% rally, $2.5 trillion added to the S&P 500 actually something that we can trust? Or is this more of the same? The choppiness is going to continue to be choppy, and even if we save some of the green from yesterday, the majority of it, could it be given up? I think those are all the questions that we're going to explore today because obviously they are on people's mind. But as of now in the pre-market, we've got some green. Shopify up 2%. Oklo is up 2%. Corning's up 2%. Micron, which was almost below 300 yesterday, is pushing 350. That's up 4%. Tesla is up 2%. Nebius up another 2%. SoFi, Meta, which was almost below 500, 20 bucks away from going below 500. Now 578, NVIDIA, 176. It was touching 177. Palantir, Snapchat, BMNR, Zoom, Ethereum, Bitcoin. I mean, anything you want outside of Nike, which we'll talk about. Nike's at a 15-year low. Outside of that, we are green. And it's quite incredible to see why. Trump will be talking tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern. 9 p.m. Eastern, Mr. Trump will be doing I think it's an Oval Office address to the entire nation about the updates on the Iran war. And obviously, the market is a little jittery, right? Because if he says something that shows that the war is going to be extended or that aggression is going to continue, futures probably dump. I doubt that happens, just given how much he said the war is going to come to an end and how much the other administration officials have been touting that. Now, granted, everything he said is similar to what he said over the past week. So what's really the difference between now and yesterday? And we'll talk about kind of the main catalyst that created this entire rally. But if he just continues on the same path of saying we have won, the war is over, whether or not you politically believe him, if the market interprets that as being correct and the Strait of Hormuz is closer to being open, oil prices should hopefully go down and we should get a lot more momentum in the context of the equity markets. So we're going to talk about it. We got a lot to get into, a lot to discuss, and we will try to get into all this stuff. Are you streaming the address tonight? Probably. I think it's at 9 p.m. Eastern, so most likely we'll be streaming it, and we'll hopefully see if Trump says something that is meaningful. We also got jobs data. We have ADP payrolls. I think we just got a Trump tweet right now, so let's get right into it because we got a lot of stuff to get into. Again, good morning. First off, real quick, before we get into it, I just want to post this in the chat. People can check this out on their own time. But the LA meetup pictures are live. And a lot of people have been asking for it. So there it is. It's live. You can click it right there. And for those that did not go to the meetup, you can experience the meetup. Super cool. Shout out to Braden, who did all this. I'm going to link his Instagram later as well, so you guys can follow him on Instagram. Very, very, very talented photographer. And yeah, I'll put his Instagram in the description and link it later for you guys to check out. But for anyone who wants to go through the pictures, it's there. If you were at the meetup, you'll get an email with the pictures, and you'll be able to see everything as well. All right, so let's get into it. Let's start off with a Trump tweet. I think this came out literally a minute ago. So what better way to start the day than looking at a Trump tweet? Here we go. Iran's new regime president, much less radicalized and far more intelligent than his predecessors, has just asked the United States of America for a ceasefire. Okay, that's a pretty big deal if that's the case. We will consider when the Hormuz Strait is open, fear and clear. Until then, we are blasting Iran into oblivion, or as they say, back to the Stone Ages. Okay, I feel like the S&P would be reacting a bit more positively there based on this idea of Trump claiming the Iranian new regime president, which we don't know who it is, and the administration is not telling us who it is because of his safety is the excuse we've got. asking for a ceasefire. Now, maybe the market already priced that in. I mean, we did go up 3% yesterday, so like that is a big move, but that is a little bit confusing. He also then puts out a threat that says, we will consider only if the Hormuz Strait is open, free and clear. Until then, we are blasting Iran into oblivion, or as they say, back to the Stone Ages. Yeah, I mean, it's bullish for the ceasefire. It's a little bearish for Trump saying we're going to keep attacking you, which is a bit more escalation. But nonetheless, that's also how Trump has been talking about this since the beginning. S&P actually going down right there. A little bit of a red candle, 0.46%. Not sure how much the markets are going to believe this. And I think that's going to get us into our analysis about the central claim today, which is, do you believe in any of this? Oil prices are down today by about 1.2%, but oil is still hovering above $100, which is a little confusing to me. I mean, yesterday was confusing in general. We had a 3% rally on the S&P 500. We have not had a 3% rally this entire year, but oil was above 100. In fact, oil was at 104 until we started to really get into the rally around 3 o'clock yesterday, Eastern Standard Time. Then and only then was oil starting to drop. And the VIX also collapsed yesterday, which was good. But again, it kind of came at the same time that oil was going down. We have not seen oil go down substantially. In $100 oil, you would think that the S&P wouldn't be able to rally that aggressively, but we are. And I think that is also something that people are still worried about, that if oil continues to be at these levels, maybe it's not that easy to justify the pump that we are seeing. So why did we get the pump yesterday? Well, it's similar to kind of what Trump tweeted about, which was the main reason. As soon as this headline went live, that is when we got the big pump, which is that I guess this is who Trump is talking about, the current quote unquote Iranian president says Iran is ready to end the war with the U.S. but wants guarantees. So when Trump says Iran's president has asked for a ceasefire, I mean, maybe he's referencing basically the news from yesterday, right? If that's the case, that he wants a ceasefire or a complete end to the war, then the guarantees on the premise or the foundational reason for why he wants that ceasefire or end of war is why the market is thinking it's bullish. Now, again, the reason the market really got excited yesterday is because for the longest time, basically the past 2 weeks, Trump has been saying, we are going to end the war, we're going to end the war, we're going to end the war. For the first time yesterday, the market was interpreting Iran as wanting to end the war as well. And that is why I think we saw the level of momentum we saw across the market. Because obviously if the war were to end tomorrow, I think we rip. That's pretty obvious. Everyone is assuming we have a rip. Maybe it's not as aggressive as it was in April of 2025, but we also aren't down as bad as we were in April of 2025. April 2025, we were down 30%. I think the lowest we got here was about 8.7%. So the fact that Iran is now coming to the table, theoretically, at least in the eyes of the market, based on the interpretation of the headlines, and says they want to also end the war or come to some level of an agreement for a ceasefire, that is why we rallied yesterday. And today, I'm going to put a poll right here in the chat. Today is going to be a question of, does the market actually believe what they did yesterday? Now, this is a little different, I think, the massive green rally than what we've had over the past month. Usually the day after we end up fading, and we've seen that happen at least 4 times in the past couple of weeks, because the headline fades away and its importance and significance becomes rather irrelevant because no one believes it. But we never had a 3% move on the S&P and then followed it a day after. The most we've had, I think, is 1.5%, and then that ends up fading to like 1% or barely anything for the day. If we were to reverse the entire 3% gain, which again, we're up 0.42% in the pre-market, so we're actually continuing it, that would be quite spectacular. It would be phenomenal just to see that playing out. I mean, I don't think anyone would be expecting that. If you're short, obviously you'd be hoping for that. But would it be surprising? No, not really. I mean, it really wouldn't be that. Now, it would be really crazy for $3 trillion to go up in the air and then come right back out. Then again, I feel like we've seen a lot of crazy stuff as well. A lot of people are saying it seems too good to be true. Well, that sentiment is almost exactly what I have heard, or what I've at least seen on the timeline over the past 24 hours, that it seems too good to be true. And especially because there's not real confirmation. Like, this is all just headlines and rumors. The Iranian president has come out. In fact, the Iranian foreign ministry came out yesterday. This is the problem with what's going on with Iran. There's all these different factions that are quote unquote negotiating on behalf of them. And the Iranian foreign minister ambassador came out yesterday and said, we do not have any faith that negotiations with the U.S. will yield any results. The trust level is at 0. Now, that doesn't mean we're not negotiating. It just means that we don't have faith in the negotiations. And that brings up the second point of analysis throughout all of this. The things that Iran are asking for, based on what we looked at yesterday, seem kind of ridiculous in the context of a negotiation. They want the U.S. to leave and never come back again, and they don't want to give up anything. They don't want to give up the nukes. They don't want to give up the dictatorial regime. They don't want to instill more freedoms. They just want the U.S. to leave, and basically they're like, we'll reopen the strait. If that happens, they're going to tell their people, hey, we held our own against the United States, which is going to obviously be a form of propaganda that's going to be very effective for the Iranian people that support the regime. And they're going to say, we made the United States leave because they are so dependent on oil, yada, yada. And we were able to push them out without having them, really hurt us. Trump is going to have to say we decimated their military to make his claim to the American people for why we even did this in the first place, if we don't necessarily get any meaningful level of, change in the regime. And we pushed back their nuclear program by so many years that the job was done. We don't need their oil. That's why Trump is tweeting to all these NATO countries to buy U.S. oil instead of oil from the Strait of Hormuz. And our mission is done. It's complete. We can leave. We did what we had to do. We handled this quote unquote excursion, and we can go back to normal. Those are going to be how the narratives play out. But I don't know how the negotiation plays out, because I don't know if Trump's going to get them to negotiate in any meaningful way that's going to change what has already happened. And I don't know if he has the leverage to do that, given oil prices are as high as they are, as high as they are right now. The Strait of Hormuz is still open, but not to U.S. and its allies. That is correct. And so I think it's about 10 to 15 boats are passing through the strait, but not the 120 that usually pass every single day. We do have some headlines right here that the UK is going to be hosting 35 countries. This is from the Financial Times, for talks on reopening the Strait of Hormuz. This is going to be happening this week. The UK will host talks aimed to forming a coalition to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. So that's a good piece of news, and that is a way to at least potentially get the Strait of Hormuz open. But the point is, if the United States leaves and we get nothing from this other than the perception of we've decimated their military, that is going to be, and I think that is going to be how Trump talks about this at 9 p.m. tonight to the American people, which might also create a rally in the stock market, because he might preview the fact that we are done, we're ready to leave, we've accomplished our mission, we're good to go, negotiations are going well, and the negotiations might end up just being, you get the hell out, we'll open the strait, we'll tell our people we beat you, you can tell your people you beat us, and it's over. That might be the most optimistic way this plays out. And if it doesn't play out that way, then I think there is a bear case, which is as the following. If we don't get any meaningful level of negotiations and the aggression continues, which I don't think either side wants to, but let's say the negotiations are so bad that they have to go further into combat, market's going to tank, oil's going to go up. I think both sides don't want that, which is why I think this rally is a bit more real than not. But obviously time will tell. This is what Trump said yesterday about the Iran war, and he mentioned the stock market reflecting the positive updates, which means, yes, once again, the president really does care about the stock market.
The plan to bring them back down.
All I have to do is leave Iran, and we'll be doing that very soon, and they'll become tumbling down. And stock prices were up today almost to a record because they know two things. Number one, we have a safe country. We had to take a little detour because we had a madman named Khomeini, who sadly is no longer with us. And we had regime change already. We've knocked out one regime, then we knocked out the second regime. Now we have a group of people that are very different. They're much more reasonable. I think much less radicalized. We have had regime change. We're dealing with people that are much more rational. And
as you can see right there, Trump flipping the narrative, saying we've already had a regime change. We're talking to the people that are not as radical as the Ayatollahs. So, in his 9 p.m. address tonight, I think he's going to try to make the claim that, hey, we did what we needed to do. We said we would change the regime. We did it. Even if that has not, liberated the Iranian people, he is claiming the strategic military objective has been achieved.
It's amazing what we've done. We had to make a little detour. So when the stock market broke all records just a few weeks ago, when it hit 50,000 on the Dow, 7,000 on the S&P, I said to the American people, it's time that we have to make a little detour because we have a madman that wants a nuclear weapon. And if we didn't knock him out with a B-2 bomber, we would have a nuclear weapon right now. It would have been used before today. And you may not be standing there asking that question, okay? So I think we have a country that understands that. I see CNN did a poll and they talked about voters or MAGA voters, and my poll came out at 100%. Nobody covers that poll. They had another poll where it's at 92% approval. I think that the people understand it. We'll be leaving very soon. And if France or some other country wants to get oil or gas, They'll go up through the Strait and Hormuz Strait. They'll go right up there and they'll be able to fend for themselves. I think it'll be very safe, actually, but we have nothing to do with that. What happens with the Strait, we're not going to have anything to do with, because these countries, China will go up and they'll fuel up their beautiful ships and they'll leave and they'll take care of themselves. There's no reason for us to do it. We hit them hard. We got rid of a lot of the radicalized lunatics along the Strait. But if they want something, but I would say that within 2 weeks, maybe 3, we're hitting them very hard. Last night we knocked out tremendous amounts of missile making facilities. We, as you probably read or wrote, we knocked out. Excuse me.
Pardon me interrupting. The U.S. will be gone or done with the war?
I think with 2 or 3 weeks.
Not 3 weeks. If it is,
We'll
3
leave.
weeks,
Because
then it
there's
would
no
be
reason
possible
for us to do this.
deadline.
Look, problem with the Strait, a guy can take a mine, drop it in the water, and say, oh, it's unsafe. It's not like you're taking out an army or you're taking out a country, or they can drop it. Or you can take a machine gun from the shore and shoot a few bullets at a ship, or maybe an over-the-shoulder missile, small missiles. That's not for us. That'll be for France. That'll be for whoever's using the Strait. But I think when we leave, probably that's all cleared up. Today, I heard tremendous numbers of ships were sailing through. We're negotiating with them right now. They've been, again, we have had regime change. Now, regime change was not one of the things I had as a goal. I had one goal. They will have no nuclear weapon. And that goal.
Once again, reframing the narrative. That initial video that Trump came out with on March 4th was heavily rooted in regime change. I mean, he was literally telling the Iranian people to get up and go take over the capital of the Iranian dictatorship. But the nuclear weapon was also a big part of it. And so, from a political perspective, Trump is saying, look, regime change was like something we kind of cared about. But what we really cared about is them not blowing up the world. And so that reframing of the narrative, the reason that's bullish, whether or not you politically disagree with it, the reason that's bullish is because if we've achieved what we needed to achieve, even if we haven't, but he says we have, we can end the war sooner, which means oil can go down and the market can go back up. And, that's kind of why I think we're getting this rally in the S&P.
All has been attained. They will not have nuclear weapons, but we're finishing the job. And I think within maybe 2 weeks, maybe a couple of days longer to do the job. But we want to knock out every single thing they have. Now, it's possible that we'll make a deal before that, because we'll hit bridges, and we've hit some. We'll hit some bridges, got a couple of nice bridges in mind. But if they come to the table, that'll be good. But it doesn't matter whether they come or not. We've set them back. It'll take 15 to 20 years for them to rebuild what we've done to them. They have no Navy. They have no military. They have no Air Force. They have no telecommunications. They have no anti-aircraft systems. They have no leaders. Their leaders are all gone. That's why we have regime change.
There you go. That's what Trump said yesterday. The narrative has been reframed. I imagine he will continue with more of that conversation tonight in his address to the Oval. But, I mean, do people believe it? That is the question. 62% of you in the chat on the poll say no, you do not trust this green. And I do not blame anyone that does not trust this green. So today will be a very important day. Today is one of the most important days of the year because, after a 3% move, if we can follow that up with even some green, maybe there's a little bit of legitimacy to this rally and maybe this is the start of something new. But if this is not, and if we give it back and give a significant portion of it back, I think Jason's technical levels are 643. We need to be able to hold. He did say today, if we can get above 652, there is a path to 670. If you kind of trust the way that he's thinking of this from a technical perspective, it doesn't mean it has to happen, but we kind of dubbed it last night on Technical Tuesday as 48 hours of glory. If we can hold 652, there is a gap up to 670, which would be the completion of this big move. But if we give up 643, it's not good because it probably means we're taking out some technical levels to the downside. So 643 on the downside, 652 on the upside, and then 670 could be the way this plays out. Or maybe we stay flat. I'd be happy if we just hold the green, even if we don't get much more of it, if we don't give it up. I think a lot of us would be okay. The other question I think a lot of people are asking is like, do I buy, right? Do I buy into strength? And I think that's also a hard question to ask or a hard question to answer because it's like,
stocks are still down a lot. I mean, Robinhood's at $70. You didn't get the absolute low at 62, but I mean, the thing is down from 120. Buying at 70 doesn't feel that crazy if you have to pay $8 extra per share because you got more certainty. But if this thing goes right back down to 62, you're going to be pissed. A lot of people are going to be pissed, right? And I think the institutions are very skeptical right now to fully imagine if this is the exact moment where they need to get in. But they're also very scared because they missed this exact rally, which is why a lot of them underperformed compared to retail last year on the taco for Liberation Day. So it is one of those things where I would imagine there's a lot of people going back and forth. There's probably people buying more puts that are now cheaper in terms of the premium they're paying. There's probably people that are selling more aggressive covered calls here to take advantage of the premium. There's also probably people that are just using this as an exit event to sell. I mean, if you bought any of these stocks over the past couple of days, they are substantially higher than where they were before, and you might want to take some profits, or you might be breaking even and you might want to take some profits if you're afraid that this could get worse. VG's down 4% in the pre-market, which is good just in terms of the perception of oil and gas going down. ExxonMobil also down 2.7%. Next decade is down 2.5% as well. So, yeah, I'm looking in the chat. It's very 50-50. A lot of people say buy the dip. A lot of people say buy the strength. And a lot of people are also saying sell the rip, which, I mean, I don't know. I have not put net new money to work outside of 2 days ago. But it was like $3,000. It wasn't a lot. My 30,000 or 35,000, I believe, will finally clear by tomorrow. And I don't know. Do we just like throw the 35 grand into the market and say, all right, we hit the bottom, we're moving forward, or do we get a little bit more cautious? I think today will at least be one of the more important days to figure out if that's actually going to take place, and if we should be okay with paying a little bit of a higher price than we paid last week. The VIX, by the way, down 4% in the pre-market, which is also very good. That is good momentum. Oil is starting to come down a little bit below 100, but we are still actually no, we're 100.4. We're down from 100.8, but still 100.5. I don't like it that oil's above 100. All these headlines should be rather bullish, and you should be pricing in oil coming down. I understand that refineries have been hit, and maybe we need to take more time to kind of price in expectations for oil, but it's hard to fully trust the rally with oil at these levels. So oil getting at least to like 97, 98, a little bit below 100 would be nice to see today if that ends up playing out. Am I still saying strength so wrong? Like, can I not say that freaking word? am I that bad at saying strength? That's how you say it, strength. This is ridiculous. This freaking word. This is a word we have to use a lot nowadays, so it's not that exciting. Usually if I don't know how to say a word, I just try to not say it. But there's some words like mortgage, which apparently I say wrong as well, and strength that I have to say that you guys will not let me live down. Regardless, that's the update on the war. That is the update on the war. You're missing the G. Well, real G's move in silent, like lasagna. Okay? Have you ever thought of that? If you're a real G, you move in silent, like lasagna. Have you actually ever thought of that? Because if you haven't, then you should highly consider it. Speaking of real G's, real quick, before we get into all the stock market stuff, because we got a lot of stock market stuff to get into, I just did anyone see that freaking Duke UConn game where they hit that buzzer beater 3? I mean, that was absolutely insane. And the coach, which Dan Hurley, I mean, this is March Madness in basketball in the States. Dan Hurley is a dog. This is what he did to the referee after his player hit that 3. And the memes that have been created on this are crazy. As you can see right there, look at him. This is what he does to the ref. This is what he does to the ref as soon as his player hits the 3 from like almost half court. I mean, who does that? What coach stares down the ref like that? And the memes, me to the IT guy who told me, have you tried turning it off and on again when he finds out computer actually has a massive virus after I failed the phishing email and spent 8 hours on an illegal offshore gambling site. This is hilarious. And a lot of people said these are the bulls to the bears yesterday after a 3% rally in the S&P 500. So that has become meme of the year. That has absolutely become, that is a true G. Okay. That is a true G. All right. Let's get into it. We got a lot of other stuff to talk about into the actual market dynamics of what's going on, particularly around AI. Before we get into the AI headlines, let's do the jobs data. U.S. ADP non-farm employment change today, 62,000. Street expected 40,000. 62,000. Street expected 42,000. Education and health services led the growth with 58,000 new jobs. On the other hand, trade and transportation declined by 58,000 jobs. The overall business sector contributed to the gains with 85,000 new jobs. So when you factor in the gains and losses, 62,000 new jobs from the non-farm ADP payrolls above 40,000. This is bullish. This is more than expected. Now, granted, every time we've had more than expected, the next month we get a reversal, which is, or not a reversal, but a revision. And I don't know how much the market is going to trust it. It hasn't really changed the probabilities for a rate cut. Ironically, if we had less jobs, we probably would have increased the probabilities for a cut. We are now at a 0.5% chance for a hike in April, which is good. Those hike probabilities have come down. If the war ends fully, I think it will completely go away. But we are still at a pause for the rest of the year. Maybe in December, there is a chance for a cut. Right now, I'm looking at December. Yeah, December, there's a 0.7% chance. So we need a lot of progress on inflation going to the downside in order to get that 0.7% chance to get higher than 1% when it comes to inflation coming down. We are not going to have the Tesla numbers today. That's Thursday, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, we would have had those already. So Tesla numbers will be Thursday, which is tomorrow. So we don't have to worry about the Tesla numbers today. A couple quotes from Trump. He gave another interview to a news source. He says, we're going to be out of Iran pretty quickly, but won't give a timeline. Number two, I will express my disgust with NATO in my speech tonight. Says he is absolutely considering withdrawing the U.S. from NATO. He has been pretty aggressive in regards to how he's talking about NATO, so it wouldn't surprise me if he teases that he would want to get out of it. Number three, we have some more targets left. If we have to, we'll come back to do spot hits. Number four, I don't care about nuclear material. We will watch that with a satellite. Okay, so Trump is saying that if there is nuclear material left in Iran, that we will have satellite imagery to be able to help us figure out where it is. Trump also says we've had a full regime change in Iran. We just played that video. And then Trump says Iran will never have a nuclear weapon, nor do they want one. Okay, so those are 5 quotes from Trump this morning, in addition to his tweet where he said the president of Iran is now asking for a ceasefire. And in his 9 p.m. address to the nation tonight, I imagine he will echo a lot of these statements and potentially threaten to leave NATO, which I'm not sure how the NATO allies are going to. I'm not sure how they're going to interpret it, especially since the United States is one of the largest contributors to NATO. And I would imagine, from Trump's perspective, he's going to say none of you guys supported us during this time where we needed you. The NATO allies are going to say you didn't need to do this in the first place. So it's going to be a lot of back and forth. And I guess tonight we'll see what he ends up saying about NATO. S&P 500 right there, still up 0.4%. Still up 0.4% in the pre-market right here as we are continuing to see a little bit more momentum. All right, let's get into some other stock market stuff. So OpenAI, we got to talk about it. OpenAI, big news from OpenAI. They've not only raised $122 billion. This is the largest level of capital raising in the history of venture capital. And usually, venture capital as an industry invests $120 billion a year across the entire, or not even $120 billion. I think last year was like almost like $80 billion across multiple startups. OpenAI is, as one company, raised $122 billion. Take a look at these stats. We are now generating $2 billion in revenue every month. So they're on a $24 billion run rate. At this stage, we are growing revenue 4 times faster than the companies who define the internet and mobile areas, including Alphabet and Meta. They have $100 million in ARR 6 weeks after launching the ad pilot. So they're getting into advertising. I think it's the fastest growing product to reach 100 million ARR literally in 6 weeks, which means advertising on ChatGPT is likely going to be a massive industry. They have 1 billion weekly, or they have 900 million active users. They're claiming they're going to be the fastest to 1 billion weekly active users. They were the fastest platform to 10 million and then 100 million. And that 2 billion of revenue per quarter is higher than what Alphabet and Meta have ever been able to achieve. They're also making the argument that OpenAI is becoming the core infrastructure for AI, making it possible for people and real world businesses, big and small, to just build things. I will say I was using ChatGPT yesterday. It is now my go-to LLM. It has been my go-to LLM for the past couple of months. Dude, it is good, man. It is good. And I know that Claude is better when it comes to monetization of the enterprise. And if ChatGPT and OpenAI can figure that out, that's going to be a massive unlock for them, which they've got rid of Sora and the Disney partnership because they want to start focusing on the enterprise. But my goodness, it has become a daily part of my life, and I probably am never going to stop using it, never going to stop paying for it. They also said they have 50 million paying subscribers, which, they need a lot more to be able to continue justifying the valuation that they have. But in 3 years, to get 50 million people to pay, some of them $200 a month, some of them $20 a month, is pretty exceptional. It's pretty incredible. So what are the proxies? Oracle, right? This is one that's going to be an obvious proxy because they have 350 billion of RPO coming from OpenAI. If OpenAI has the money, then they're going to be able to pay them. AMD, they are going to potentially own 10% of AMD. So AMD is a massive proxy as well. NVIDIA has invested in OpenAI in the latest round. They put $30 billion in. So NVIDIA gives you access to OpenAI. Obviously, Microsoft, which owns 27% of OpenAI. There's a lot of different proxies in the public market. The question is going to be, can OpenAI continue these growth rates, and can they use the $122 billion that they've raised to be able to not only grow, but pay out all the partners that they've been talking about? Right now, they're not expected to go profitable on an adjusted EBITDA basis until 2030. They are expected to go public this year, along with Anthropic. And if the market starts turning and we get some green macro meaningfully coming in, then yeah, I think it would be a right environment for them to go public. Same thing for SpaceX, same thing for Anthropic, even if they are aggressively valued. But these numbers are just unbelievable. $2 billion in revenue a month, and they're probably going to be able to double that next year. So you're talking about something that's going to be doing $50 billion, trading at $800 billion in valuation. I mean, 800 divided by 50 is 16 times sales. That is an aggressive multiple, but it's not as aggressive as some public companies, and they're not growing as fast as OpenAI is. So from that perspective, it does seem like they're going to be able to support the valuation if they go public, as long as the macro kind of holds up as well. NVIDIA, right, they're up 0.85%. S&P is up 0.5% as well. Now, one stock that is not green in the pre-markets, unfortunately, is Nike. Who is buying the Nike dip? Who is buying the Nike dip? I see a lot of people saying that they're DAUs of ChatGPT. It has become, Grok was the thing because I used to pay a lot for it. I still pay a lot for it because of X, but it's just not as personable as ChatGPT. Gemini, I just never got into. I know people love Gemini. I just never got into it. I really didn't. So GPT is the winner. It's the one I'm going to use. And it seems like it's the one that a lot more average people are using. And, you know, that is part of their growth story. Nike's down 11%. What happened with Nike? They really messed up on the guidance going into fourth quarter, which is not what the street wanted to see. They actually beat on a lot of the metrics that people cared about. China, EBITDA, revenue, EPS, obviously gross margins were actually a little bit better than expected. Inventory was lower than expected, which is good. Wholesale revenue, direct revenue, brand digital, Nike owned stairs, those were all down. They were expected to be down, but nonetheless, they were down. And I think that's what the street was upset about. But the guidance was really where the street got a bit more upset. The CEO said, win now actions will continue to impact results over the balance of the calendar year, and we remain confident in our ability to position the company for profitable long-term growth. This quarter, we took meaningful actions to improve the health and quality of our business. The pace of progress is different across the portfolio, and the areas we prioritize first continue to drive the momentum. Now, the real reason this stock is down 11% in the pre-markets, reaching 15-year lows, the real reason, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure this out. Outside of the guidance not being the best, outside of EPS being down 35% year over year, the stock yesterday traded at a 33 times price to earnings. Meta, which is growing 33%, is trading at an 18 times, or I think now it's 19.5 times after the run yesterday, price to earnings. Why was Nike even trading at? I literally realized what Nike's PE was yesterday. I never looked at, I've never really studied Nike that deeply. And when I saw the PE, I was like, oh, no shit. If this company can't grow and Meta and NVIDIA and Microsoft are trading at a lower multiple than freaking Nike, a brand which, quite frankly, a lot of people, I posted about it yesterday on X. I said, who wears Nikes? And people were just like, no, dude, ever since they've gotten more political, ever since the brand has stopped identifying with my values. I mean, it's just a lot of people saying the same comment over and over again that I just don't shop at Nike anymore. There's other competitors that are also cheaper, like Haka or On and all this stuff. People have, changed their perspective on Nike. So obviously Walmart trades at an aggressive multiple, and they don't have the growth that, NVIDIA does, or same thing with Costco. But Walmart and Costco are not only still growing somewhat, even if they're not growing like crazy, they are pivotal parts of the U.S. economy, of the global economy. Nike is a shoe brand, and it's a shoe brand that's not really growing, and it's not that exciting. And quite frankly, ever since Michael Jordan, Nike has tried to find the next big thing that gets them into. It's been LeBron to an extent, but LeBron's going to retire soon. So who is that person that's going to take Nike to the next level? They missed out on Steph Curry. Under Armour ended up getting him. So it's Hoka. Whatever, dude. Whatever. Okay? Hoka, Haka. You guys know what I'm talking about. That the sportswear company. Okay? I'm talking about, dude, you can't get mad at me. It looks like Haka. Hoka. Why? Like, You actually can't get mad at me about that. Like, it looks like Haka, or it could be Hoka too. Like, honestly, it could be either or. So no one can get that mad at me about that. But yeah, they really don't have someone that could take them the brand relevancy to a new level. And so from that perspective, I don't know why you would buy the dip on Nike outside of bottom fishing, which I get. Bill Ackman got the hell out of this a year and a half ago. And shout out to Bill Ackman, dude. I mean, we got to give people credit when they make a decision that is against their conviction because they see that there is a thesis change. Not only did he buy a lot of stock, he then converted the stock into call options. And then he got the hell out of the call options, I think about a year ago, when he realized the thesis just wasn't playing out to what he expected it to be. And so sometimes you got to give people credit when they exit early because he saved his investors a lot of money by not staying in this stock or by getting out of it. And Nike right here, 46.71. I wonder if this thing just collapses today. I mean, Tim Cook bought shares. We had a bunch of insiders, CEOs, CFO buying shares. The insiders, the Supreme Court decision with tariffs, nothing was enough to change the brand sentiment around Nike. And then again, in the fourth quarter guidance, if they're saying it's going to slow down, like, why does the street have even any level of meaningful relevance for a company that's slowing down, trading at a higher PE than Meta, when Meta is at, I don't want to say a generational discount like it was at $88, but it's at a pretty hefty discount. Obviously, you're going to get a lot of that money that rotates into tech, and that tech money might be a lot more aggressive. So look, I don't want to be too bearish on Nike because I don't care. I'm not short Nike. If you're in this stock, obviously it sucks right now to see this, and you probably have to DCA just if you have your broader conviction because you want to lower your cost basis. I don't know. That's the challenging part about these names when they trade at aggressive multiples, but they take a decline on earnings. I don't know if it's time to cut the losses because could this be the bottom? I mean, is Nike really going to trade at 2015 lows for the next 5 years? I don't know. It really comes down to your conviction in this, but I think the price action today is going to be really important to see, when we open in 7 minutes, do people just say, all right, I'm getting the hell out? Or do algos come in and say Nike is a household brand, it will be around for the next 100 years, and this is a good opportunity to buy the dip. Only thing saving them is the dividend. What is their dividend yield? Nike's, it's not even that attractive, dude. 3%. I mean, Verizon's paying you more than 3%, and Verizon's up 20% this year. It's at 5.6%. Even Pfizer, which Jason took a flyer on yesterday, is giving you a 6% yield. So the yield is also not even that exciting here, but that, quite frankly, that is the only saving grace that they have now that the earnings are not growing as much. Okay, so that's what we have with Nike, and that's what we had yesterday for earnings. That was the main earnings that we had. I think for the rest of the cycle, I don't think we have any more earnings. Let me check real quick. We are ironically, we are starting earnings on April 10th. Sorry, April 8th. April 8th, we have Delta. April 15th. April 14th is when we get all the big banks. So got 2 more weeks of a little bit of silence, and then we get right back into earnings cycle. And we're going to keep going and seeing if Q1 can be as good as Q4 was in regards to earnings. By the way, all those Trump quotes that I just read 10 minutes ago, they were to Reuters. So U.S. to leave Iran pretty quickly and return if needed, Trump tells Reuters. I imagine I think that's what he's going to say tonight in his 9 p.m. speech. And if he says that and the market interprets that as like legit, then maybe we are getting a lot closer to seeing this war come to an end. Bank of America, they cut their U.S. growth forecast by 50 basis points today to 2.3%, with roughly 75% of the downgrade tied to the war. It also raised its headline inflation outlook by 70 basis points, almost a full percent, and now sees core PCE ending at 3.1%, up 30 bips. That would be a bit stagflationary if growth is lower than core PCE. I would hope that doesn't happen, but obviously, if we don't end the war and oil prices don't come down soon enough, then that is going to be something that we have to deal with. So, hopefully we end this as soon as possible and we can start moving forward from there. Now, another thing that we had yesterday on the Wall Street Journal, which was also relatively bullish, is the UAE is preparing to help the U.S. and other allies open the Strait of Hormuz by force, a move that would make it the first Gulf country to join the Iran war. You had a couple of headlines yesterday saying Saudi Arabia is actually pressuring the United States to use force in the Strait of Hormuz because MBS is getting really annoyed by what Iran is doing. Obviously, they bombed a ton of their refineries, and he's pretty pissed off. And he can't go at him alone, so he's telling the U.S. that you have to use force. And so I think that's another reason Trump has felt emboldened to use more force, because he has the support of some Middle Eastern allies. But if they have some backdoor negotiation around a ceasefire or an end of the war with the condition that the Strait of Hormuz is immediately open, I think oil is going to tank. It probably doesn't tank to 70, but it definitely gets below 100, maybe close to the low 90s, mid 80s. And if that happens, obviously that would be very bullish. And, that might be something that we also see priced into the equity markets if it ends up playing out. So we're going to have to see what happens. Warren Buffett is not buying the dip. He says the current sell-off is nothing, and he is waiting for a substantially larger dip. Berkshire Hathaway bought $17 billion in treasuries last week.
Well, let's talk about that. The market has come down substantially.
Not substantially.
Well, you've got both the Dow and the NASDAQ in correction territory. It's the worst performance on a quarterly basis for stocks in about 4 years. Do things look cheaper to you?
No. 3 times since I've taken over Berkshire, it's gone down more than 50%. I mean, if you look at the markets of, the worst probably was the 2007-8 period, although there was that one Monday when you had 21% in a day. I mean, this is nothing. I mean,
Well, this is nothing to make you get excited and think there's huge valuation drops.
if they're 5 or 6% cheaper,
Yeah.
that doesn't. We aren't in it to make 5 or 6%. I mean, but.
I saw someone say something today. They were like, didn't Buffett say never time the market? And now he's timing the market, which he's not really timing the market. He technically is timing because he's waiting for a bigger drop. I mean, they've been timing the market for the past 2 years, dude. They've had like $400 billion in cash for the past 2 years waiting for an epic drop. And then you get the biggest drop we've had since Liberation Day, which they didn't buy anything during Liberation Day either. I'm speaking about Berkshire Hathaway. And now we get a second drop, which is nothing compared to Liberation Day. He's right about that. Nothing compared to the grand scheme of drops that he's experienced in his life, but they're still not buying the dip. So I think it's more so a question of Berkshire being extremely conservative on believing in multiples. I mean, isn't there like a Buffett indicator that has been screaming red for the past couple of years? And we haven't really had some, 50, 60% decline in the S&P. So I think he's waiting for a little bit more pain. The thing is just in the nature of the stock market, at the end of the day, people are ready with money on the sidelines. You have $8 trillion on the sidelines if they have a reason to be ready. And the multiples that we have seen in terms of compression don't justify euphoria if someone goes and buys Meta or Microsoft or Amazon. Like, it's just not euphoric to buy these prices, to buy these stocks trading at some of their lowest multiples in the past couple of years, below 20 times earnings. And as a result, if the market gives them a reason, if the macro gives them some level of justification to deploy capital, to allocate it into the best companies in the world, trading at very reasonable multiples with growth to justify those multiples, you're probably going to see money come back in. But we need the macro to cooperate. We need the war to come to an end. And hopefully today we get a little bit more of an understanding of if that war is actually going to be coming to an end. All right, here we go. April 1st, second day after a 3% rally in the S&P 500. Let's see if we can continue at 9:30 a.m. The stock market is now open. All right, wake your ass up. Let's get into it. 654 on the S&P. We are up 0.57%. 0.57% on the S&P 500. NVIDIA, 175. Kind of below 175. You got a big red candle from the pre-market holding up barely above 175. Microsoft 371. Nike goes down 12%. Pretty ugly for Nike. This is a 15-year low at this point. Last time you saw these prices was in the early 2010s. 46.30 on Nike. That's down about 12.2%. Shopify is up 1.5%. Grab is up 2.3%. Peloton's up 2.8%. Hoodie 71.23, that's up 2.7. Hood was almost below 60 last week. Again, a lot of these prices for them to get back to those levels, which is why a lot of people are thinking we put in a bottom, because to get back to those levels, we need to see a serious retracement. And time will tell based on how the market interprets this war if we get that. Tesla, 376, that's up 1.3%. Nebius, 105, 1.3%. UNH, which got to 257, that's at 273. That's up. SoFi, back above 16. Palantir, 147. Snapchat, that is green. Bitmine's up 1%. Zoom's up 1%. Ondas is up 2.8%. Visa is up 0.5%. Opendoor up 1.5%. Apple's up 0.5%. Google, 291. Google went all the way to almost below 270 on Friday. And you're seeing Google kind of get a lot of that rebound now. Circle's up 2.4%. Lam Research is up 1.4%. NVIDIA not able to really make a big move right here. 175.19. Looks like a lot of people are taking profits on NVIDIA, or at least being not as eager to buy today for NVIDIA. 175.21. Where is the VIX on the open? We are at 25 on the VIX, so VIX below 30, which is good. We were pushing 30 yesterday before it collapsed. Nike right there, 12.5% down. 12.5% down. Let me know if you are selling. Put in the chat if you are taking any profits here, not just covered calls, but if you're selling, if you're legit saying I'm using this wave of momentum to get the hell out of some positions. CoreWeave 79. CoreWeave was almost below 60 last week. 79.60 now, up 2.85%. IREN, which almost was below 30, that is now at 34.80. That's up 1.5%. On the day, the VIX is still down. Oil prices, we're still above 100. We are still above 100 on oil. I'm selling Nike. Okay, I see a decent amount of people saying they're getting out of Nike, down 12.8% right here. Look, sometimes it's okay to take the loss and move on. And quite frankly, given the nature of the market, if you take a big loss on Nike and you kind of pile that money into something that's really cheap right now, maybe you break even relatively soon if that thing that you're buying that's cheap ends up making a substantially larger move. And I think that's a big question a lot of people are thinking about if they're holding on to some losers in the portfolio right now and thinking if they can reallocate that capital. S&P 654.82, almost up 1% on the day. Got about 30 basis points more to see if we can get above that. I'm selling calls and with that money buying oil puts. I don't think that's too crazy. I actually think that's a very interesting strategy right here. Take some of that free premium and then put it into oil puts. And that, quite frankly, is hedging in two different directions. Now, if oil spikes, those puts go to zero, but at least your calls can save some of the long exposure you have on the stock side. Tesla right here, 376. Tesla was almost below 350. Again, just massive rebounds across the board. Broadcom right there, 312. That's up 1%. Reddit was almost below 120. That's at 136. Like, this is a structural level of momentum that we've seen, because almost every single stock you look at outside of like a company like Nike that had bad earnings, they have so far put in a real bottom on Monday. Like Monday, it seems like was, unless this whole thing reverses, I mean, do you see those prices again for some of these stocks that some of them, Micron was $20 away from going below 300. Do you see that if the macro changes with the forward PE of less than 5? 351 on Micron, that's up 4% on the day, as well as you're seeing more momentum. What about HIMS? HIMS is up 3.5. 3.5. Adobe, is that green as well? Let's see. Air Test Systems, shout out to Roy. Look at that. I think it was up 10 or 15% yesterday. It's up another 5% today. So this one had an ugly drawdown and had an amazing reversal, which is the story of a lot of these small cap names that have had a good year, but ended up getting hit during the macro downslide. They are right back, and the market is ready to reward them, as you see a bit more momentum right here. Salesforce, Adobe, and IGV. Salesforce is up slightly. Adobe is down. Wow. Adobe's down. ServiceNow also barely up. IGV is up a little bit. So interesting, the software names. Semis and tech are really leading the way here. Software is not. Microsoft is the best software name out of all of them, including Palantir in terms of momentum. Microsoft right there, 372. But the rest of them not really seeing a lot of love. SanDisk, that is also up 5%. There you go. SanDisk, 665. This was at 580 yesterday in the morning. So this one is also at a pretty nice rebound. SAS is all green except Adobe, Atlassian, Zscaler, and Intuit. Everything else is green. Not crazy green, but it is showing some green. Datadog up 3%. Mongo up 2.5%. CrowdStrike as well, up 1%. Trump is speaking at 9 p.m. Eastern tonight. So he's not going to be speaking today. He's already given a couple quotes to Reuters. But the same stuff that he's been saying for a while, that we want to end the war. He's not said, he's not given the full nation address. That'll happen later at 9 o'clock. Meta, 581, 520 to 600. Maybe we see that reversal, which 600 is still substantially lower than where it was on earnings at 740. So, I mean, you're still getting a deal. A lot of these stocks are still giving people a deal. The question is, do you trust what's happening in the market enough to buy into them, even if you're not getting the absolute bottom, which it's not easy for anyone to nail the absolute bottom. Hood right there, 70. That's up 1%. I think the other big thing a lot of people are waiting for today is to see, is there some level of a meaningful reversal? NVIDIA 176. Can you get NVIDIA back down to like 172, 173? Does the market end up giving back some of those gains, or do we at least hold on to, even if we're flat today, what we had yesterday? Dell, which is almost at an all-time high, 2.2%, as that is green on the day. SOXL, this is leveraged semiconductors, 3X, 8.3%. You know, it's funny because on Friday, I think there were a couple people talking about buying TQQQ, and it's like you had to have a lot of balls to buy TQQQ on Friday. You really had to believe that things were going to change. But if you did, especially if you bought options on it, I mean, you're doing very well. It's tough to time this stuff, but if Friday felt like a bottom and you bought something, which if Friday wasn't the bottom, Monday actually was the bottom this week. So, you know, Friday was bad, but Monday was where things got really bad. And, you know, that was a potential opportunity here. TSM, that's up 2.5%. Tesla was up 1.23. And then Nebius back up to 107. Back up to 107. KLAC, that's up 3% as well. We talked about that yesterday. Fastly, one of the best CDN stories in the market, up another 7%. My goodness. This one has had an incredible year. And that's done very well. You're a bottom. You know, I did buy on Monday. I wish it was with more than $2,500, but that $2,500 did catch the bottom on literally everything I bought, which is why I feel like no one can make bottom jokes about me anymore because I used $2,500 to catch a bottom. I wish it was $35,000, but the clearing system in our financial ecosystem doesn't allow money to transfer that quickly, which is why we need stable coins. That's the real reason we need this blockchain shit. But I feel like the bottom jokes need to be retired based on that. Over the past 5 years, April has been a weak seasonal month for the S&P 500 with an average return of negative 1.35%. That makes it the second worst month of the year on this data set, behind only September at 2.91%. That's interesting because I thought April was actually a better year than not for the markets. But I guess that was just my intuition. Looking at the data, yeah, April over the past 5 years, maybe like holistically from 1950, April is decent. But over the past 5 years in particular, which is kind of skewed because of last year. Last year was really, maybe this is a little skewed because of Liberation Day. But the average return is negative 1.35% for April. Micron, 5.2%. Micron, 5.2%. As that continues to go green right here. Oil, are we below 100? Are we below 100? I'm looking at 100.3. Some of you guys might be seeing below 100. I'm looking at 100.3, but the point is we are very close to going below that. Russia, Iran constructively agrees to the passage of some ships through Hormuz. Okay, that's bullish. More and more ships that are passing, regardless if it's U.S. ships or not, it is going to increase oil supply. If we can officially end the war and then every ship can pass through, including U.S. ships, then we're going to be in a much better spot. But maybe that headline also is what got oil to briefly get below 100. Wow, Nike, 13% down. 20 million shares have been traded on Nike. Crude at 99.23. Okay, crude at 99.23. Maybe that Russia headline is what caused that spike down just for a second. Google, are we moving? Google is really moving. Now, is that Google specific or is that Mag 7? No, that's Google specific. That's Meta. As Meta's up 1.7, Google's up 2.5. I think that's a advertising rebound that you might be seeing. Remember, the headline as well on Friday, not just the child exploitation case for the ad companies, was if we are getting into a recession or we are feeling recessionary in regards to consumer demand, oil, et cetera, then advertising will slow down. That as a natural headwind affected Snapchat, Reddit, Meta, and Google. If that narrative flips, just like what we saw in Nebius, the Bernie Sanders data center moratorium thing was like bearish Nebius, bearish Iran CoreWeave. That sentiment flipped literally in 2 days once the Trump said a ceasefire is closer, which makes you think that narrative or that sentiment wasn't even real. I mean, for Nebius to go from 130 to 90 and then back up to 105, I mean, obviously it's very volatile, but it's almost like the reason it went down, if it was because of this data center moratorium, it's like that, well, doesn't feel like that's real. And maybe the advertising recessionary stuff, it wasn't real either, which is why Google and Meta are getting a bit of a rebound. RVI, the Robinhood Ventures Fund, that is also up 5%. Where's VCX? Is that up on the day? That is up 24%. Fundrise Growth Tech Fund, that is up 24%. It was down 80% from the highs on Friday. You're seeing that go down. By the way, the commodities are also loving this. Gold, silver, and copper are loving it. Gold right there. GLD up 1.3%. SLV, that is actually flat on the day. That was up yesterday. And then copper is up 2%. So Bitcoin, the commodities, and the equity markets, everyone participating. VRT is up 5.5% in this potential ceasefire rally that could be playing out. Now we just got to see if we can trust it. I don't think there's any Google news. I think this is more just advertising, advertising sentiment coming back. You had Google come out with that compression algorithm recently, and they got hit with an EU case, but I'm not seeing anything too crazy right here. Nike, my goodness, dude. Street is completely done with this. Last time it was $45.85. You're looking at 2015. Yeah, 2015. Right about that 2015, 2016 timeframe. It jumped up from 30 to 45, then it stayed there for a while. Then it got all the way to 167 in 2021, and now it's come down since then. So about a 10-year low that you're looking at on Nike. S&P, a little bit of a red candle right there, 653.95. Let's see if we can at least hold the 650s. Netflix, are we dumping? Netflix is red, down 1.3. Again, Netflix already made a pretty big move in the midst of the bear market that we saw, the pseudo bear market. It went from 70 to 90, so can't be too upset with Nike. Kind of flatlining here. Iran straight won't reopen based on Trump's absurd displays. Iran's foreign minister, only Iran and Oman will decide the future of the Strait of Hormuz. Again, if the U.S. leaves the region, I think they're going to open it pretty quickly because Iran also makes a ton of money from that Strait of Hormuz being open. So, they can say what they want, but if the U.S. leaves, and again, this is a game of politics now. If Trump leaves, he doesn't want it to be seen as he's leaving because they won't open the strait. And if the Iranians reopen it, they don't want to reopen it if the U.S. is there because they want to prove to their people that they forced the U.S. to leave, and that's why they're reopening it. So both sides are going to have a push and pull in terms of communicating the narrative. At least that's how I'm interpreting the way they're speaking publicly about it. And for us as investors, I don't think any of us care. We just want the damn strait to be open so that we can get past this. CoreWeave's up 3%. Iren's up 2%. HIM's still up 2.5%. ALAB goes red. VG goes red. Snowflake goes red. Software is dumping again. Palo Alto goes red. Rocket Lab up 3.2%. That's at 66.50. ASTS, that's also up 3.4%. IGV goes red. Wow. Microsoft goes red. Salesforce and Adobe go red. Huh. Interesting. Software going red so far. That seems to be the main sector. We'll take a look at the heat map in a second. Tech is still green. Grab's up. Hood's up. Hood loses 70 though. Tesla up. Nebius up. SoFi goes red. I mean, for everyone saying it was too good to be true, these red candles continue to kind of prove the argument that the choppiness of this market is more prevalent than expected. I don't have a headline for seeing fintech and software go red. Then again, we had such a big move yesterday for these names to give back some of those gains. Is again, as we said in the beginning of the show, it would not be surprising. It would be annoying. It would not be surprising. Where's NVIDIA? Are we still 176? Barely. 175.70. 175.70. VIX is now only down 1%. Palantir just went red. Okay, so this is software again. Did Claude put out something? Did Dario say that Claude's gonna do something that changes the world again? Is that what we've got going on? It's kind of like the market almost picked software as the one sector they were just not going to let rally this year, and every pump has been faded, and the best of the best get a little bit more premium, but the other ones just get hit. Robinhood right there, 295. Or sorry, not Robinhood, Google at 295. PMI data, do we have it right now or do we get it in 10 minutes? I think we get it in 10 minutes. No, we got it right now. 52.3. 52.3 on global manufacturing PMI. The street wanted 52.4. That's not a reason for us to lose some steam. 52.3 versus 52.4. That is a beat. We're going to get services PMI in 15 minutes. Or sorry, manufacturing PMI in 15 minutes, along with new orders, prices, etc. But 52.3 is not that crazy. Oh yeah, I did see that headline. Claude Code was leaked all the features for this year. A lot of people have talked about that. The source code was, I didn't read too much into this, but yes, I did see that headline. Maybe that's creating some bearishness for software because a lot of people saw a bunch of different things that Anthropic was working on in regards to new updates for Claude Code. BMR right there going 0.5% down on the day. Microsoft going down. Bitcoin, gotta call that a $600, $700 red candle. And then you've got Ethereum that's following it. Ethereum down at 2,000 as well, or just above 2,000. Visa, Zeta. Yeah, Zeta had a massive move yesterday. Visa, once again, is down 2.3%. Zeta is down with software. It was up 7% yesterday, down 1.6 today. The fact that the payment rails like MasterCard and Visa continue to go right. Wow, MasterCard down another 3. How much are these down year to date? MasterCard year to date is down 13%. These are phenomenal companies that transact trillions of dollars a month. So it's quite incredible to see this happen. Visa year to date is down 14%. I mean, is there a stablecoin headline? VIX just went green. VIX just went green. Well, if you've got covered calls, this is why you've got them. It's too early to say that we're reversing all the momentum yet. And quite frankly, even if we stay flat from yesterday, that's still a really good result. But the 48 hours of glory thesis that Jason talked about yesterday is kind of contingent on holding some key levels. And right now we're giving up a decent chunk of those levels across the board. 653 on the S&P. Got some more red candles right there. The cruise lines are green. Is oil still below 90 or below 100? Yes, 99.04. Which is good to see. But not necessarily creating that much more momentum. Look, 3% yesterday is a massive move. And if we hold that, I think people have to be happy enough about that. However, if we give back this 0.4 that we're having today and end flat, there's definitely more doubt than optimism in this market. It is not the same as the Liberation Day V-shape. Granted, Liberation Day V-shape, we actually had Trump come out and literally say it's a great time to buy. We have not had that yet. And I don't know if we're necessarily going to get that anytime soon either. Semis are still green. That is fair. Semis are still green, especially on the day. They've given up their highs, but SMH, it's not that far from the highs. 392.60, now it's at 391.25. Is anyone buying here? Is anyone buying into strength? SoFi down 2%. For IGV, this news won't stop coming, a momentum headwind. Yeah, and retail's loaded up heavy on software, by the way. Retail, IGV, look at that, 78.80. Retail has, we looked at all the data. Retail is calling BS on software. I don't know if retail's going to be right about this one, to be honest. I mean, either if Jensen's argument about software companies becoming the resellers of OpenAI and Anthropic, and that creating the sort of compute as a service versus like seats as a service or software as a service. Or no, Jensen said agents as a service is the way he's framing it. You know, is that new paradigm going to be what allows software to get this big rebound that people are waiting for? I see people say bought some Zeta, bought some Poet, bought some Palantir. Bought some Tesla. All right, if you're buying here, that means you are calling BS on this mini reversal from the highs. And if you sold already or you're selling here, you're taking advantage of the green. S&P 653.90 back up to 654. SMH at 392. Micron at 350. A lot of people saying they're taking a little bit of a shot in Micron here. I sold out of Nike completely and rolled the rest over to SoFi. If you sold Nike, put in the chat, and would love to hear what you bought instead of Nike. When it comes to rolling covered calls, look, it really depends on the premium and the strike price you're at. My strike for NVIDIA this week is 177.50. So I'm not really that compelled to roll it yet. If it gets there, we'll see what we have to do. But if you had like a 65 strike on hood, yeah, you probably got to think of rolling it if you think you didn't see the bottom, or if you think you saw the bottom. If you had a 71 strike on hood, you're at 69.86. I would still let it play out. You're not really seeing that explosive move that's being proven. So the whole point of the call is to hedge against a level in which the market is not able to have an absolute rip your face off moment. And if you don't think you've seen that yet, or you don't think it's coming, then I think you hold tight. If you do think it's coming, then you roll. You roll as quick as you can if you're below your break even or close to your break even, and still try to capture some premium while increase the upside on the potential to capture share appreciation. Nebius right there, 106.50. That's up 2.5. UNH at 271. Where is fear and greed? Where is fear and greed? 17. It was 8 yesterday. 17. It was 8 yesterday. Nike. I see a decent chunk of people saying they're selling. Decent chunk of people saying they're selling. Don't blame you, but obviously price action is not encouraging, especially when there's just so many discounts. 13% down, 45.90 is what you're seeing for Nike. Crude below 99. That's also nice to see. Below 99, although software is still getting hit. Maybe that's why the S&P is. The software is going down and tech is like somewhat retracing. The S&P is holding up, and maybe that's because of a couple of other sectors that are more rooted in oil. And as oil is going down today, at least below the highs of 104 yesterday, that might be creating some momentum. This is what we've got on the heat map here. I mean, you're still pretty green on the day so far. SoFi down 1.5. Unfortunately, I think SoFi just has some deeper structural issues in regards to the concerns around private credit and obviously the concerns around loans. And so it looks like that's creating a much bigger issue here. 654 on the S&P at the moment. We are going to get some more data in just a second. Trump is also going to be attending the Supreme Court today to hear about the birthright citizenship case, which is also going to be very important. And apparently he's going to be at the actual thing today where he takes a look at it. You guys got to give me a second. My charger, for some reason, the charging port on my Mac is not working, and I've got to plug in a new charger. So give me 1 second. I thought I had fixed it from yesterday, and that's why you might be seeing a little bit of a lag right now. So let's play this one clip, and then let me pull it in the right charger. Yeah, we're like, give me 2 minutes. It's gonna fix the lag in a second, and then we'll be right back.
Have you with us. So we're talking about serious numbers here. This is the company's latest funding round and the largest one to date. Tell us what exactly, they're planning to do with this raise.
So this is really about OpenAI continuing to invest large amounts in compute and talent in order to try to win the race to AGI, right? And with fierce competition from Anthropic, Google, and others.
And how big is kind of the number that OpenAI is going to have to solve? Again, kind of a breathtaking number, $122 billion we've reported potentially on an entry to public markets at some point later this year. But it does seem like there is an insatiable need to raise cash.
That's right, because these training runs, as they call them, to build the next AI model are now happening with greater and greater frequency.
All right, we're back. And yes, OpenAI is raising at 122 billion. Dude, that's kind of weird on my Mac. So the actual charging port isn't working anymore. The USB-C is how my Mac is charging. That is so weird. Like the actual charging port, the one that's typical on a Mac, is not working, but the USB-C, like the way you charge your iPhone, is the way that it's being charged. I don't know why that's happening, but that should fix the issue, but that's weird. That is very weird. Regardless, we are back. Palantir going red. Nvidia not red yet. Nike still losing steam. Robinhood losing steam as well. S&P also losing steam. We're going to get data in about 4 minutes on manufacturing and see how that affects the market. 653.91 on the S&P. Yeah, the MagSafe port. Yeah, maybe I need to clean it. Maybe that's the issue. I really don't take a lot of good care of my computer, to be like all the technology I have, I just stuff it into my book bag. I don't wear a case on my phone. I really treat my tech badly, to be honest. My camera, I don't even clean the lens. I just throw it into my bag. Like I am not like a professional photographer, videographer who like actually puts, people have those bags and like they have their gear in certain sections of the bag. I just throw my shit in my book bag. I'm like, all right, we're done. That's probably why it's messed up. So we'll see. Maybe we're gonna have to buy a new one if this thing is not working. Davis says can't confirm. Yeah, dude, Davis saw my setup in the hotel. I just like take my shit out of my bag, open it, boom, we're ready to go. And that's it. Meta 576, below 580, but still green. Walmart, that's green. AMD 209. There's breadcrumbs. Dude, I'm literally looking at crumbs on my keyboard right now. And I have a keyboard cleaner. I should use that thing. I bought it last year. Yeah, I should probably clean some of the stuff. Perfect Captures Photography says I'm a pro photographer and I'm terrible as well. Okay, that makes me feel better. All right, 2 minutes. Let's see. I don't know if this data is going to have that much of an impact on the market. We had retail sales today. Retail sales also was up 0.6% up month over month in February, rebounding from a 0.1% drop in January. That's good. Clothing, personal care stores, and hobby musical instruments and sporting goods were the biggest increases. Gasoline also went up, obviously. And then you had electronics and appliances. So retail sales, that could have been part of the reason the market was up today. That's good for overall earnings as that number continues to go up. And we'll see what ISM manufacturing looks like in about 1 minute and see if that has any impact. Where are we at? We are at, the expectation is 52.5. 52.5 is the expectation. If we come in around that range, I would imagine the market doesn't care that much. We already had global PMI come in. We also have inventories, employment, new orders, all that stuff. 52.5. VIX is still 25. That is correct. VIX is still there. All right, we should be getting this in about 10 seconds. Let's see if the market reacts. 654.27. 52.7. 52.7. That's a beat. That's a beat. Employment, 48.7 versus 48. That's a beat. Versus 48.6. Small beat. New orders, 53.5 versus 55. That's a miss. Manufacturing prices, 78.3 versus 73. That's a big beat. And then business inventories month over month for January down 0.1% versus 0.1% expected. That is also a miss. S&P's moving. She likes it. 654.60. Let's see if we can crack 655. That would be nice to see if we can crack 655, but that is a beat on kind of those core metrics we were looking for. RM beats bearish, less chance of a rate cut. Yes, but it also means earnings growth should be substantial. We've had the best earnings in 4 years. If we can continue that, that would be important. And then hopefully oil can come down, which would be enough to justify the rate cut. Now S&P is going flat. It liked it for a second. Now it's going back down. Not really seeing a major reaction there. But it's not horrible. I feel like right now we're struggling with, again, inflation versus growth. And you want to have more growth, less inflation. But if we have more inflation, less growth, it's stagflation. If we have high inflation and high growth, it's just no rate cuts, which is what we were in 2023. Which we somehow persisted into a bull market because the growth was so good because of AI that the market overlooked the inflation. But obviously, we need a decent chunk of inflation coming down for this to continue allowing growth. Yes, the rate cut probabilities for 2026 are 0 right now. The last chance we have is December. December is 0.7%. So as of right now, we're basically not getting a cut this year.
So we want to pay attention to that. Last month, we lost a tenth from a tenth to 0. But of course, 0 isn't a negative number. We're expecting our ISMs, our ISM PMIs. These are March reads. I don't see them populating yet. We did have retail sales better than expected, and we did see S&P Global manufacturing roughly the same as the mid-month read. But as I said, I don't see these numbers populating yet. So I'm going to kick it back to you, Carl, when that's the March read and 52.7. How does that stack up? 52.7 is pretty strong. That would be the best read going all the way back to the summer of 22. That's the only one I do.
Wow. 52.7. Best in 4 years. I mean, that's not too bad.
See at the moment, we want to pay particularly close attention to prices paid because on our last read, it was at the highest level since the summer of 22. Sarah, I'm sorry, but that's all I see at the moment.
Okay, no, thanks, Rick. We'll take the better headline number there, 52.7 versus the 52.1 estimate, little higher yields. And I'll just throw in, to the good news, better beats data. What we got from ADP, if you trust this series, and again, we looked to the government report on Friday, but this was
655 S&P, getting a little bit more of a move right here.
a better headline number. And there's where it stacks up, where you can see. So the economy added 62,000 private sector payrolls in March after 66,000 in February. February was revised up from the initial estimate of 63, but this was better than the consensus of 40,000. And what was really interesting was that small businesses had a good month of job creation. 85,000 jobs created in small businesses. Medium and large businesses were actually negative. So that's where the job growth was, for all the hand wringing about, some of the problems with small business. Engine of growth here when it comes to jobs. And if you just want to look, it's always interesting to look by sector of where the jobs were created. Education and health services, I thought that was notable. It's been a source of job creation. It was 58,000. It's notable because in the JOLTS data yesterday, that was actually a little source of weakness, that part of the economy. Construction, nicely, we know it's been happening with the boom there in terms of building data centers and everything else. Leisure and hospitality, which is obviously a huge job sector, added 7,000. Disappointing manufacturing again. Subtracting 11,000. I mean, a year into the tariffs here, that was supposed to be one of the sources of job growth as companies have been investing in the U.S., but not a ton to show for it on the manufacturing side. But overall, guys, a pretty good number. And just I'll add the wages for job changers, 6.6%, still pretty steady and growing. Job stayers, 4.5%. We'll wait, David, to see what the government report shows, but at a time where there's concern about whether this economy can hold up with the rising oil price and geopolitical uncertainty. So far, if you look at the weekly jobless claims, add in this ADP private sector report, looks like the job market is hanging in there pretty well. Let's see about payroll growth on Friday, because that's been weaker, in recent.
Right. Well, again, the markets are closed on Friday. The credit markets will be open. So we will get that non-farm payroll, which is different than the ADP private payrolls we got today, S&P, just below 655. And we'll see how the market reacts to that. So far, non-farm payrolls this year have not been the best. But, I mean, look, we're not really in the worst trajectory, as Sarah mentioned, when it comes to overall growth concerns, even though, obviously, inflation has been not the best in terms of the impact that it's having. We have a 99.5% chance of no hike or no cut in April, and a very low probability of that potential hike. As S&P is holding on, even though software gave up a lot of the gains today. S&P is holding. Wow, VG under 15. That is really nice to see. Not because I'm bearish VG, but this has been an indicator. Every time it goes down, growth goes up, and growth is trying to come back up, but Netflix, SoFi, Silver, Verizon, some of these still getting hit. TSM holding on to its move, Tesla moving on. Well, Verizon going down actually is not that bearish either. If your value plays are going red, that's not the worst. What about Coca-Cola? Yep, that's red. American Express, that's red. All right. So we're seeing some more of this stuff Blue Owl, 1.4% down. Intel is up heavy. Why is Intel up 7%? What is the headline on Intel? What is the headline on Intel? Intel. AMD is acquiring Intel. Okay, that's a ridiculous rumor. That would not be the reason. If that is the reason, then that's crazy. Yeah, why is Intel up 7%? What the hell are people excited about Intel? 7.6% up on the day on Intel. It's an April Fool's joke. Yeah, but the market, you're telling me the market's falling for an April Fool's joke about AMD acquiring Intel? That would be a little weird. I would think the market's a little smarter than that, right? 47.46. It's got to be fake. It's got to be absolutely fake. I'm not seeing a single headline of AMD acquiring Intel. I don't know where. What can someone link the article where they got that? Where the hell are you? Oh, I think this is that. Intel to pay $14.2 billion to buy back Apollo's Ireland plant stake. Intel continues to expect it will retire its debt maturities as they come in due 2026, 2027 to fund with cash on hand and new debt issue. Okay, so they're paying back old debt and they're raising new debt. It looks like that's what is getting Intel to be a bit more excited. I mean, yeah, that's not a horrible reason for it to go up. That makes more sense. Jason did buy Intel yesterday. Jason just like, I have a feeling that China will invade Taiwan. I'm like, I think a lot of people have that feeling, but now with this whole Iran war, that feeling became a bit more material, even though we, haven't seen any massive escalation. And so he bought some Intel. So maybe it's because of Jason. Maybe it's because of Jason just buying Intel yesterday because of his fears. That's why we went up. SanDisk making a move as well, as that's getting some more momentum. All right, so they're buying back $14 billion of their debt. Yeah, that's a pretty simple reason for why that stock is up. Amazon's cloud business in Bahrain has been damaged in an Iranian strike. I think we saw that headline early this morning. Not the best for Amazon. Now, granted, I don't think the majority of the AWS operations are in Bahrain, but definitely not something that you want to see. This is the Iranian foreign minister. We have a clip of him. This is in English. Here's what he just said in a recent interview this morning.
Us many times. We do not accept deadlines. For us, securing the interests and rights of the Iranian people is what matters. No one can set deadlines for us. Artificial deadlines do nothing but make matters more difficult. And you have seen that these deadlines have been extended twice so far. The President of the United States must change his approach. You cannot speak to the people of Iran with the language of threats and deadlines. Our people are a great people with a very rich culture. One must speak to the people of Iran with respect. Otherwise, they will receive exactly the response they are receiving now.
Now, again, I don't think him saying that is necessarily scaring Trump, and I don't think Trump being as bravado as speaking with as much bravado as he tends to speak with is also scaring the Iranians. I think both sides are trying to grandstand. Palantir almost flipping green. You're seeing some green candles come back. And, they both kind of have to prove to their people that they're the more superior entity in this case. Micron, 7% move, 361 on Micron right here. Google as well, up 3%. But at this point, if both sides want to be right, then eventually, hopefully they can end the war so both sides can find a way to move on. Amit, speaking as an Iranian, we hate this guy even more than Khamenei and the IRGC. Yeah, the foreign minister dude, I would imagine, is not the person that Trump is negotiating with either. Obviously, he wouldn't have productive negotiations. But this new president that they're speaking to apparently is the guy, even though they don't want to publicly disclose that. And SanDisk up 9%, dude, almost at 700. It seems like if he has any level of meaningful significance or power in terms of speaking for the Iranian government, then maybe that negotiation is a bit more legit than not. 295 right here on the Googs, as that's up 2.75%. Pluto, thanks for the super chat. Amid, I have 175 covered calls for NVIDIA expiring tomorrow. Would you roll now or wait? Love the show. Can't wait for the Chicago meetup. Excited to see you at the Chicago meetup as well. Should be a fun time. 175 expiring tomorrow. Yeah, I'd roll. I mean, you're at 175.60. I imagine you got more than 60 cents of premium, so you are still below your break even. You should easily be able to roll to like 180, 185 for next week. If you think that we are straight up and the bottom's in, you probably want to get to 180, 185. If you're still calling BS, you could even keep it at 175. And then if the market goes down, that's your hedge. Obviously, more premium you would get at that 175 range. But I wouldn't wait until the end of the day, because obviously if it's above 175, then you would lose your shares. But you are not super underwater on these, which is a good thing. Robinhood below 70 again, 69.90 as that is down. Rick Wong, thank you for the super chat. And Rick, it was great to see you at the meetup. Mr. Rick Wong was there. So super cool to connect with you in LA. I'm closing one of my portfolios this month to buy a house. Hopefully by end of month, we have a great bounce. Ironically, I was talking to some people in real estate yesterday, and the mortgage rates have spiked up from where they were at the end of February, which sucks. But the overall housing market is still a bit frozen. I don't think it's too crazy to take some profits into this potential wave of momentum we have and kind of reallocate that capital. Now, Restoration Hardware had a really disgusting earnings. That stock is down 21% today. They are a luxury brand for furnishing in homes. Obviously them, Home Depot, Lowe's, they've all seen a bit. KBH Homes that had earnings last week, they've seen a earnings decline, particularly because the housing market is broken. That's another reason we need the 10-year to come down, which is why we need oil prices to take a bit of a breather so that inflation expectations come down in order for the 10-year to come down, in order for mortgage rates to come down, because we're still at 4.3. So if you're buying a house right now, you're probably paying above 6. I mean, maybe you're getting 5.8, 5.9 with some special conditions, but you're up above 6%. That's just the current price that people are going to have to pay. Iranian foreign minister, no truth to Trump's statements that we requested a ceasefire. Iranian foreign minister, we do not accept a ceasefire. We are seeking an end to the war. We seek guarantees that such aggressions will not be repeated. That's actually bullish, because they don't want a ceasefire. They want a complete end, which is what the market wants. But the condition on the complete end of the war, which is what I don't think Trump's going to agree to. And I think even if he says he's going to agree to it, there's no way he's going to actually agree to it, is this idea of zero aggressions going into the future. Because if the Iranians get ready to develop a nuke again, I would imagine, Democrat or Republican, they're going to want to take some level of military action. Even Biden didn't do it, but Biden did talk about the Iranian threat. And even when Harris was on the campaign trail, she talked about the potential military action they would have to take. So maybe Trump says we won't attack you again, but he can't really say that, because, a U.S. president can't say we're never going to attack like that again. So I don't know exactly how they're going to frame the negotiation of these tenants, but the market would be happy if this were to end soon. Marvell got that $2 billion investment by NVIDIA yesterday. Marvell, wow, 7% for Marvell after a 12% day yesterday. Look at that. You get NVIDIA to invest in you, your stock goes up. Your stock goes up. That's pretty incredible here. 106.49 on Mr. Marvell here. Out of 440 data centers worldwide, Amazon have 3 in Bahrain. Okay, so that shouldn't be affecting Amazon too much. But it's not good for a data center to be tagged. 210 on Amazon. This thing is still below its September levels of 2025. So obviously this one has also been stuck for a while. 52-week high for Marvell. This is where Marvell usually fails, right? This is where it gets, it's been here. It's been close to this before. Yeah, I got up to 102 a while ago. So this is where it tends to retrace. And if it keeps going, maybe this is a breakout moment. Nike is down 14%. 34 million shares have been traded. The top 20 stocks yesterday in the options market. Wow. Look who made the top 3 for the first time in a while. Micron, 759,000 contracts. NVIDIA, Tesla, Micron, Meta, Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, Palantir, SoFi, AMD, MicroStrategy, Google, Netflix, Intel, Snap, which is going to get an activist investor soon, apparently. Broadcom, Hood, Neo, TSM, and Nike. I would imagine Nike's up there today. Still some decent put volume that was bought yesterday or traded yesterday on the big names. Even Micron, you had a lot of calls, but you had a lot of puts as well. So you're not seeing the option flow go super bullish and skew to the call sides. Micron is obviously still cheap. We've talked about their multiple. The question is, do you believe in the memory super cycle? And look, stock was at 470. Now it's at 360. It's still a deal. It was a deal at 318, obviously, but it's also a deal at 360. But it's down $100 from the earnings after one of the best earnings we've ever seen. But do you trust it? Do you trust it? Is the question right here. And it's not the easiest question to answer. Chief Justice Roberts of the Supreme Court seems to doubt the Trump administration's theory on birthright citizenship, noting that the examples the admin provides, children of ambassadors, invading powers, etc., were tiny and idiosyncratic examples compared to Trump's sweeping theory. So Trump will be at the Supreme Court today, I imagine, to either make his case or watch the lawyers make his case about birthright. He has not been getting the Supreme Court to be on his side this year. Sandisk almost up 10, Corning almost up 6% on the day. And this new interpretation of birthright citizenship is a win I think he would like to bring to his base, which I'm not sure if he's going to be able to, but he will be out there today. Yeah, he can't talk. You're right. He's there to observe. The lawyers will be talking. I think we'll be able to listen. I mean, we're not going to listen to it, but I think on their website, you're allowed to listen to the oral hearings for people that are interested in this. They should have a video of it, to be honest. At this point, they should just be able to live stream the actual arguments on this. Meta's still up on the day, but losing a little bit of steam. Poet is up because of Marvell. You know what else is? Where's Broadcom? Poet's not up that much today. Broadcom should be getting a little bit more of a bid as well. There's some correlations with Marvell on this. 313, that's up 1%. Broadcom was below 300 last week. And not even last week, on Monday. So the fact that you're seeing that bounce above is also nice at these levels. State of New Hampshire to launch $100 million in bonds backed by Bitcoin instead of taxes. Is that the first state to launch bonds backed by Bitcoin? Obviously, we've seen companies like MicroStrategy do that, but I didn't know New Hampshire was that orange-pilled. Interesting. New Hampshire, out of all the states that would do this, New Hampshire, I did not think would be the one. Didn't New Hampshire announce a strategic Bitcoin reserve last year as well? That is, they have been a bit more friendly towards BTC. Wow, there were vending machines that sold Bitcoin for $7 in New Hampshire back in 2012. Okay, this state has been super orange-pilled for a while. Look at this. When they come by. That's crazy. 2012 Bitcoin machines. All right, there you go. Maybe Bitcoin's getting some more adoption. Rocket Lab, 5%. Rocket Lab, 67.30 on the day. Let's see if that gets back up to 70. It's so crazy because, you know, Rocket Lab was chilling at 75 to 79 for the longest, and now a 5% move gets you barely close to 70, which is you know, feels good, but that's how much we've been sold off. Like the fact that Hood is also trying to touch 70, given it was, you know, above 75 for so long, it's a big move because we were at almost below 60. So, you know, that's another question. Let me ask that question in the chat. Have we seen the bottom? Because we don't have to all agree that the markets are going to V-shaped pump like here and it's going to go crazy. But I wonder if people agree that Monday was the low, and that there's been too much progress from a perception perspective around the war, and Trump 9 p.m. tonight will give more perspective on that we've seen the bottom. So that's the question. Did we put in the bottom on Monday? Because we're not that close to it. I mean, 630 was the bottom on the S&P. We're at 655. I know that's 3% away, but 3% on the S&P is not easy. Even though yesterday we got it in a day, which was awesome. Now it's almost 4% because we're up almost 0.7% on the day. It's called 3.7. And the meetup, dude, we thought the meetup was the top. Imagine it was the bottom. Imagine it was the freaking bottom, dude. I think it's like the day before the meetup is the top because Friday was ugly. And then the day after the meetup is the bottom. That might be what's happening. Look at that. S&P 655.40. That's a nice green candle coming in right there. 656. Can we see that? Can we see that? The Israeli defense ETF is up. This war isn't stopping. That is fair, but the overall Israel stock market has outperformed massively over the past couple of years through all of the instability that we've had. So, and to be honest, even if the war, if the war ends, I would imagine there's still going to be heavy investment in Israeli defense tech and American defense tech with Anduril, Lockheed, etc. Just because now the world is a bit more scared of what could happen. This conflict could arise again. And, we need to be prepared. We need to have ammo. So I'm not sure if the defense ETF going up in general is an indicator that the war is not stopping. But potentially it could be. And, that might be a contrary indicator for growth stocks. S&P just below 655 got rejected at 655.40. We are still green. Wall Street Journal, Trump has raised concerns with Rubio and other top aides the possibility of withdrawing from NATO if allies don't help reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Back to 655. I am not an expert on NATO. I know the United States contributes the majority of funding for NATO. I don't know how easy it would be for Trump to justify leaving NATO. I also don't know if Rubio would want to leave NATO. Because they can talk a lot of shit about NATO, and all of them, have, including Percent, they've all talked a ton of shit about NATO. But talking shit about NATO is different than actually leaving NATO. Especially, you leave NATO, you get Putin thinking, oh, the U.S. is not supporting NATO anymore. Maybe it's easier for me to invade some other countries. That would be a disaster. And obviously the United States would try to help protect those countries unless we enter into a paradigm where we're not protecting those countries, which I don't think would be, particularly productive for the United States because Russia would get more powerful. So I'm not sure if the NATO countries are buying into this argument that they're just going to withdraw from NATO. I'm not sure. Now, Trump's probably going to threaten that today. He cannot leave NATO without 2/3 of Congress. It's a treaty, but he doesn't have to order any U.S. troops to support any NATO actions. Okay, so that's a good point. So given NATO is a treaty, without getting a majority of Congress, he can't legally leave it. But he could withhold support. And then it begs the question, he has a couple years left in his term. The next president might reaffirm their ties with NATO. So I'm not sure like Germany or France would be that scared of that threat, to be honest. But Trump's probably going to talk more about it tonight. Intel is up 8%. Look at that. After buying back $14 billion of their debt. Nvidia still holding 176. Still holding 176. Okay, what else do we have coming in? What else? Tim, thank you for the super chat. Amit would love a meetup in South Africa at some point. The community would love Cape Town. I would love to visit South Africa. I've heard so much about it. I think it's probably a couple of years out, if I'm being honest, to actually visit. But yes, I would love to do a meetup there. And quite frankly, I would just love to explore the region. So hopefully one day we would be able to see South Africa. JD Vance is about to be live. He's going to be swearing in somebody. Not sure if he's going to be taking questions and talking about the Iran war, but we'll see if he does. 176 on the S&P. Amazon's up 1. Intel's up 9. What did people say on the bottom poll? Let's see. 60% of you say no, we did not put in the bottom. That means people are expecting this entire move to be erased. And it would be erased aggressively if we actually go back there. I mean, dude, Monday was ugly. I was at the airport. I was like, dude, that's when I decided to. I was literally at the airport and I was like, you know what? I need to buy something. This is just getting. I've refrained from buying since like mid-February. I'm like, now enough is enough. Nvidia 162, like this is getting stupid. And so I bought what I could buy, but it was ugly, dude. Monday, like it just felt like there's sometimes you get a feeling where it's like this is just getting a little stupid. And I don't know if we get back to visiting those. I mean, Meta back at where did Meta bottom at? Potentially 520 on the dot. Meta hit on Monday, 520 on the dot. I don't know. You know, people are going to hate me for saying this. People are going to hate me for saying this, given public opinion has kind of switched on this guy. But Tom Lee did say we would bottom in March. Now, it was the second to last day for that prediction to be potentially accurate. Time will tell. But he did say we would bottom in March. He said that early in March, and we kept going lower, which is why people kept giving him shit. But March 30th is technically in, it's not technically, it's in March. And if that was the bottom, just saying, he did say it. He did make the argument. ASTS, 6% there. 6% there. Oil and 98. I made our bottom jokes loud. I mean, I can't stop you guys. I thought I might have a way to stop you guys, but apparently I don't. Apparently I don't. I need a good April Fool's joke for today, but it can't be ridiculous because then everyone will say that I'm joking. I should have thought about this before I went live today. I have no idea what I could joke about for April Fool's today. Guys, I'm not gay. April Fool's, April Fool's. Maybe that's the joke. Maybe that's the joke. S&P back to 655. Back to 655. Rocket Lab has had the craziest price action all month. Yeah, Rocket Lab, dude. It was 57. I picked it up at 57. And I mean, below that's the reason I also pulled the trigger on Rocket Lab. I was like below 60 with the SpaceX IPO coming up, even though I think Rocket Lab is obviously expensive. I don't think Rocket Lab's cheap. Come on, below 60, that's almost a 50% retracement from the highs. We're going to have to pick a little up. It wouldn't surprise me if we get back down to the low 60s, but going below that again, I don't know. Feels like that would be aggressive. SpaceX is going to crush their stock. I think SpaceX is going to be the catalyst. I don't like SpaceX's valuation either. And, you know, Anthony Noto, by the way, people are not going to like me saying this, but I thought it was kind of cringe. I'm not going to lie. I thought it was kind of cringe. Yesterday, he like added Elon and was like, hey, DM me if we can help you with anything with a winky face. I was just like, dude, I don't know. I didn't really like it. I thought it was a bit weird. I was like, how is your team not already in contact with SpaceX for the hottest IPO of the year? Like, are you like messaging him like that or tweeting that? Again, people are not gonna like. If people are saying I'm nitpicking, but it was a little weird, dude. It was just like, dude, how is SoFi not in contact with SpaceX to get ready for this IPO? Like, not even a reach out, or maybe they did reach out and they haven't heard back, so they have to publicly do it. But I don't know. That was a little weird. Still don't like the SpaceX IPO. I was kind of happy when I saw the headline that said Robin and SoFi users won't be able to get it, because I was just like, good. It'll save Robin and SoFi from big exit liquidity, because I maybe it pumps, dude, but I don't get that valuation. I just don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me. Now, maybe it's based on Tesla forming with them and all this shit, and maybe it's just the state of the macro. Like Anthropic, I can understand their valuation, even at 600 billion. I mean, look at their growth. OpenAI at 800 billion, a little bit more expensive, but I get it. I mean, you see how powerful ChatGPT is. You're willing to pay a premium for it. SpaceX, one of the most important companies in the world, but almost a $2 trillion valuation out the gate on 15 billion in revenue. Like, I guess I'm being too analytical about it. Maybe I need to think of it as just like an idea more than anything. But who knows? Maybe it'll be one of the best IPOs this year. 67.48 on Mr. Rocket Lab. If it was Vlad, would you genuinely say this? No, because when Vlad wants to get Elon's attention, you know what he does? He says, hey, if you own Tesla stock for the next 2 weeks, transfer in your Tesla stock to Robinhood, we'll give you 1%, which is exactly what he did last year. That's how you make a statement if you want to get a CEO's attention. And guess who retweeted that post? Guess who retweeted it? Mr. Elon freaking Musk, the CEO and founder of Tesla. Why did Vlad do that? Because that was the time where Schwab and Fidelity were potentially going to vote on behalf of your Tesla shares for the Elon compensation package. And Vlad was like, well, on Robinhood, we're not voting for you, and we'll give you some money to come over. And a lot of people, I mean, they brought in over $1 billion, 1.2 billion, I think was the exact number of just Tesla stock they brought over to the platform. That's how you get a CEO's attention. Not DM me so we can help you with a winky face. It's like, I'm sorry, bro. It was just so cringe. I was like, what is he doing? It's weird. But maybe it'll work. And maybe that would help. 655.01 on the S&P. Broadcom, that's up 1%. Micron, that's up 8%. Micron's still moving. ServiceNow down. Adobe down. Dude, Adobe has not been able to find its footing all year. Adobe and Nike Adobe, Nike, and Elf have just been hit so. Elf on the retail side. Nike also on the retail side. Nike's still falling. And then Adobe on the software side. Oh, we're talking about Nike. Let me see. Let's pull over to this now that we mentioned it. Get some coverage on kind of what went wrong, what happened on these earnings.
In February in North America, but China is still a big problem. And EMEA, the other big region, it's going to follow the North American playbook and is just not there yet. The CEO, Elliott Hill, has been making a lot of changes in leadership, including in recent months. New leaders in China, in EMEA, and at Converse. I spoke to Nike about all this last night, and here's the story. In part, because they have that new leadership, there is new visibility now on the depth of the challenges and just how long it will take, which is why they introduced last night longer-term guidance for the first time in a while. The problem is it didn't include growth. And for investors to see long-term guidance, they wanted to see growth. Now Nike expects revenue to decline by low single digits in 2026. Nike's bigger and more complicated than the competition, the On-Runnings, the Hokas. The geographies are more complex, the categories are more, and so they're arguing it's harder to fix all these problems quickly. But investors are short on patience, we know, which is why they and more analysts today are pushing out forecasts of recovery to take longer. Let's bring in one of those analysts, Jefferies analyst Randy Koenig. He has a buy rating on Nike, $90 price target on the stock. Randy, you like the story.
Yep.
But do you agree it's just going to take longer now?
Look, I think you should be an equity research analyst. You encapsulated the summary pretty well of what's going on. But look, I think first and foremost, we can't forget the way that Elliott is attacking the problem, which is one geography at a time to fix, one product category at a time. And for the last 3 quarters, they've shown that progress. Running is up double digits, 20% in the last 3 quarters. That is a big positive. The North American business growing. And as you pointed out, wholesale also growing as well. So I think that's the first step of the puzzle. And remember, this is the most ubiquitous brand in the entire world. It's going to take time to fix. And Elliott's the right person to fix it. And he's making the right decisions to fix it. It will take time, but he is making the right strategies.
So what does the timeline now look to you? Now that they do have more visibility, they are giving more guidance. What are we looking at in terms of recovery times?
Look, I think we and the rest of the market had to take a more sober view of what we saw here. And we saw a business that we initially thought would turn in fiscal 27. looks like it's going to turn in fiscal 28, which ends in May 2028, given the fiscal year. That is the reality of the situation here. And why? The reason why is the company needs to reset product in China. They've already started to see some green shoots there. It takes time. And then Europe took a step back, right? The European market is more promotional. That's a reality. It doesn't help with the Middle East war. It's going to take time to fix there as well. But I think, again, what I'm taking away from this is Nike did a good job of re-solidifying what Nike's great at, which is product and balanced distribution and being the number one brand. And that's not going to change. And now you can buy that number one brand at its lowest valuation level on a price to sales basis or market cap basis in 15, 12 years. It's very low, very attractive.
I know you think the price is going to double. So you're telling investors buy hand over fist on the market. So EMEA, I think they tell me they can use the North America playbook, which is working, and they can do that. It just takes some time. China's a whole different story, right? Mono brand, it's the Nike brand, it's much more digital. They have, and this crew, Matt Friend, Elliott Hill, they've turned China before a few years ago under Mark Parker. Remember when China was a problem, they turned the market. What does that look like? Because it feels like that is one of the key pieces for investors to get on board.
Well, look, I think you put up a good point. Is Mark Parker still the chairman? This company has gone through this before. And in fact, the last analyst day they had was in 2017. What did they do at that analyst day? They said, we need to refocus on performance, less Jordans. We got to balance our distribution. And more importantly, we need to innovate. And that's what they did. So this time around, as it pertains to China, they need to reset towards performance products. They did that in a couple stores last quarter. They said that in this current quarter, they rebalanced product in 100 stores, and it actually worked very well. Given there's 5,000 points of distribution over there, it's going to take time to reset all the stores in China. So we think that China will improve within a couple quarters. And this is probably why they're having an analyst day in the fall, because remember, as we get to the fall, they're going to lap the tariffs in North America. That means gross margin is going to be up in the North American market. We're going to get Europe set and fixed within the next couple quarters because they did that in North America. And lastly, in China, they're already starting they took their pain on inventory write-downs. They're resetting with new product now. And that'll mean by the end of the calendar year of this year, they'll start to bottom out in the China market going forward. So I think that's why you have an analyst day later this year, get people more excited about calendar 27 for this stock and beyond.
So no doubt in your mind, we get long-term guidance in the fall.
Oh, of course. They actually said that on the call, that they're going to be more about giving annual kind of outlooks as opposed to one quarter views. And Sarah said it poignantly that they started to kind of talk to this idea of, we have a little bit more visibility, but the turn is going to take some more time. So while we're going to see gross margin improve and inflect 2 quarters from now, the revenue of the business is still going to be a little bit challenged. Not a lot. I mean, we're talking about down 2 to 3% revenue. It's not down 10, 20, 30%. But it will be down for the next couple quarters as they reset the business, reset the products around the globe for the most ubiquitous brand in the entire world.
Yeah.
What do people think? Sounds like a little bit of cope, I'm not going to lie. I mean, nothing he's saying is necessarily wrong at all, and he probably understands the business a lot better than me. But it does sound like a lot of cope to make the case that this is a stock to buy in the midst of Meta and Microsoft and Nvidia trading at these valuations. I mean, the PE is only 29. Went from 33 to 29 after a 15% decline. There's forget buying Nike intrinsically, but compared to the alternative assets that you can buy that are trading at significantly lower multiples with significantly better growth, not only on the EPS and revenue side, but also on the margin side. I mean, Nvidia has better margins than Nike. Nike's at 40, Nvidia's at 75. Like, I don't know how someone picks Nike over some of these other names that are there. S&P 655 again. We're not breaking above 655. We're not breaking above 655. We got to 650, 630, and then we fell back down. Oh no, so we did break above it. But it was really quick. Yeah, a little bit of a failed pump right here. Yeah, Micron will be at 80% gross margins. I mean, how do you buy Nike in the midst of that? It's a little tough. Many explosive warheads land in greater Tel Aviv region. Sirens heard in Tel Aviv for the fourth time in 15 minutes as Iran fires a larger than usual missile at central Israel. Israeli media says simultaneous shelling from Iran and Hezbollah towards Israel. Israeli Broadcasting Authority, 10 missiles from Iran towards Tel Aviv. Okay, that's not the best to see in the midst of negotiations. But you do have some more reports of further attacks from Iran and Tel Aviv. Market's not really reacting to that. But you are seeing more of those headlines. Again, the question is, does that, delay all of the talks and the ability for any meaningful war? Reuters says Trump directed Vance to communicate privately that he is open to a ceasefire as long as certain U.S. demands are met, including reopening the Strait of Hormuz. Vance and Rubio are negotiating with, that's what Trump says. They're negotiating with the Iranians. U.S. Vice President Vance has been talking to intermediaries about the Iran conflict as recently as Tuesday. Vance delivered the stern message, as per Reuters, that Trump was impatient and warned of growing pressure on Iranian infrastructure unless Iranians make a deal. I imagine 6:55:30 again. I imagine this is what Trump's going to talk about today. That we will continue to attack power infrastructure unless we get a deal soon. And again, Steve Witkoff and Kushner are not negotiating apparently this time. It is JD and Rubio. By the way, Rubio was on this morning talking about NATO. Maybe Trump is going to echo some of these statements later today in his speech.
If now we have reached a point where the NATO alliance means that we can't use those bases, that in fact, that we can no longer use those bases to defend America's interests, then NATO is a one-way street. Then NATO is simply about us having troops in Europe to defend Europe. But when we need their help, not their help, we're not asking them to conduct airstrikes. When we need them to allow us to use their military bases, their answer is no. Then why?
Which, by the way, Spain closed their airspace yesterday to U.S. fighter jets. So if you were the United States, you had to fly in a route that avoided Spain's airspace because they explicitly do not want to be part of this war. And that's another thing that I think pissed off Trump yesterday.
Why are we in NATO? You have to ask that question. Why do we have billions and billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars over the years, trillions of dollars, and all these American forces stationed in the region? If we can only use, in our time of need, we're not going to be allowed to use those bases.
That was the main thing that Rubio said yesterday. I don't know. Again, I don't realistically think we're going to leave NATO, but they obviously might threaten that. S&P, once again, she's going for 656. Yesterday we had this same action. It was green, but it was teeter-tottering for a bit. And then by the middle of the day, it just exploded. I wonder... Now, granted, we had a headline yesterday that was really bullish. I wonder today if we have a shot to get that again. Federal Reserve Governor Michael Barr. We got a clip of him as he's discussing the threat on inflation. Let's pull this up as well.
Nation make this journey in an environment where it might be more like the Wild Wild West. There's no guardrails. There's no framework. There's nothing. Just let it be. Que sera, what will be, will be. Is that good for society? Is really the question, where we're seeing this occur in an environment where even the long-standing regulatory systems like the CFPB and the Community Reinvestment Act are being gutted, being undermined, being muted, being spayed, actually being neutered. That's an important question. What insight can you offer?
I agree with you very much, Mark, that we're at significant risk, particularly the area that I know the best is the financial services space. It's happening in many other areas of our society, but in financial services, those guardrails are being weakened. And I do think it creates additional risk. It creates risk to safety and soundness, to risk that will repeat the problems of the past. As you said, in the global financial crisis, in the lead up to that, one of the problems was regulation was weakened. And in the S&L crisis and savings and loan crisis in the 1980s, leading up to that, regulations were weakened. And in the regional bank crisis we had in 2023, before that, oversight of those regional banks was weakened. So if you look at these patterns in history, people start to get complacent, or the political mood in Washington changes, and regulation starts to weaken, and you get a little sugar high at first, but that bill comes due. It always comes due. And so down the road, you might have greater risk. And at the Federal Reserve, I've been dissenting a lot lately on policies affecting regulation, because I think the steps that are being taken at the Fed are weakening regulation. And as you said, at other agencies, we do consumer protection of smaller banks and risk assessments of big banks for consumer protection at the Federal Reserve. But we need to have partners to do that. We used to have a very strong Consumer Financial Protection Bureau that was our partner in making sure that supervision was strong, and that partner is being gutted.
So Fed President Barr, not the most optimistic right there in terms of the state of governance around the economy. Also, obviously a bit more hawkish about where interest rates should go with concerns of inflation. Rocket Lab up 5%, S&P still holding 655, Broadcom 311. We haven't really seen a meaningful reversal outside of software continuing to get hit, but it's also barely down. ServiceNow's down 0.08%, Salesforce barely down. IGV, are we still below 80? We are. No, we're almost right back above 80. So software getting a small V shape. Not green yet, though. Yeah, 1% more until S&P hits resistance. I mean, there might be a little bit of price discovery on this if we can seriously break through, especially for some of these other names that have been hit so hard. But we've got to actually crush through these levels. 655.76. She's trying once again. The neoclouds, are they getting hit? Nebius is still green. CoreWeave is also still green, but they are going red. Oracle did fire 30,000 people, which is why Oracle got a boost yesterday. They are engaging in layoffs, Oracle, but it's down today. So your data center names are down. Amid the bottom is nowhere in. Pulling out of the Middle East after achieving nothing is a massive failure. They now control the strait, control the flow of energy, and have nukes. How can energy prices be stable? Well, politically, I'm not sure if it's going to be interpreted as a win or not, but I do think if we leave and the Strait of Hormuz reopens, the market's not going to care, right? Like maybe energy is not as stable now that the Iranians have more control, they have more leverage. But if the Strait opens up, that does help, at least in the short term, resolve a lot of the concerns that the market has. Now, the politics on how it opens up is going to be up to debate. 656 again on the S&P for the third time today. But, when you say the bottom is not in, if the Strait of Hormuz were to open, I think the bottom is in. If the Strait of Hormuz were to be closed for the foreseeable future, then yes, there is a good case that the bottom is not in. But I think it's kind of contingent on that. And right now, I don't think anyone knows. The market's acting like they know with the Strait potentially opening up earlier than expected. SoFi, that one's still down. Amid the Strait was open before the war accomplished nothing. Again, that's a political comment. You can feel that. Some people will say it accomplished something because of whatever Trump is saying. Some people will say it accomplished nothing. All I know is that Strait being open really helps oil prices come down. Oil prices going down really helps the economy. 656.20 S&P. All right, let's see if we can break another 15 cents. We'll get a new high of day. We'll get a new high of day. Amit, what would you suggest writing cash secured puts on? Something you want to own. Jason mentioned that yesterday as well, that this is a good put writing environment. You're not going to be getting as much premium as if the stocks were down, obviously. But if we're in an uptrend, this is when writing puts is very profitable. It's got to be something you want to own. If you love Rocket Lab is your pick. I wouldn't pick something just for that. Like I wouldn't pick Micron for the hell of it if you don't really want to get put the stock. But Rocket Lab, 57? If you write a 55 put right now and you get it below its bottom, you can't be too upset. And if it keeps going, it's like, all right, that 5,500 of collateral made you some premium. And you should be very happy to have shares of Rocket Lab at 55 if that's below the price it bottomed at. So I don't think the put writing environment is necessarily in a bad spot if we can keep this going. Axios negotiations are underway between the U.S. and Iran on a ceasefire in exchange for opening the Strait of Hormuz. According to them, it's still unclear whether a deal can be reached. See, this is also going to be interesting. If the negotiations, if the central point of the negotiation is to open the Strait of Hormuz, and that's why the U.S. will leave, and Trump can say, I've accomplished reopening the Strait of Hormuz and sell that to the American people, I think the market rips, dude. Like, I don't see the market getting, if we don't rip, I don't think we get sold off on the Strait of Hormuz opening. Even the potential of it opening is giving us a 3% move. So I do think that'd be bullish. Let's see if we can go for it. 650, 630. Every time it gets close. Every time it gets close, we have a shot. Are you worried about the announcement tonight? No, I think Trump's going to just brag that we've accomplished everything, and the markets will interpret it as, okay, we're getting closer to the end of this. So I actually don't think the announcement's going to be, I don't know if it's like a announcement where we rip up, because I don't think he's going to say anything new, but I don't think he's going to say anything necessarily super bearish. All right, new high of day, 650, 642. 650, 642. The Q's also new high of day. We got rejected right at that break, but the fact that we went above it was nice to see. Q's right there, 585. NVIDIA, 176.32. Let's see if it can keep going. Let's see if we can keep it going here. I don't believe in the negotiations. I don't think any of it's real. I mean, look, the good thing about the market is you can express that opinion. Puts are cheap compared to where they were on Monday. I mean, if you don't believe it, you don't believe in this, you can put some money behind those beliefs. If you think we have not put in a bottom, S&P continues to make a high of the day, 650, 660, 650, 655. Now, if you don't believe, I mean, 630 puts a couple months out, even a couple weeks out, 655.80. Let's see if we can see 655.70 or 657. You can obviously express that opinion there. Is it bringing back software? It brought back software. Software is up. XBI, Jason mentioned yesterday, is crazy. This is one of the large components of IWM. Biotech has been in a multi-year drawdown. That is up 1.35% of the day. It was up a lot more yesterday as well. XBI year to date is up 7%, obviously massively outperforming the S&P. And maybe biotech momentum is coming in. KRE, by the way, is flat for the year, which is great to see that regional banks have not been affected by the lack of expectations for rate cuts, which you would think they'd be affected a lot more, because regional banks are, JP Morgan can weather the storm, but some of these smaller banks can't if rates continue to stay high. So the fact that regionals are almost calling BS on the idea of no cuts this year, given how flat they are. Robinhood 70, S&P still below 657. Micron up almost 10% today. Very nice to see that. RZLV, Resolve AI. This was a really hyped stock at one point. It's up 20% today. This thing got up to $4 in January in the high beta momentum run. I don't know why it's up today, but it's a very small market cap. I would be a little cautious to ape into this, but it is up 20% right here. So you're getting some of that momentum. Nebby is still up 1%. Nike's still down 14 on the day. I mean, when you're seeing small names, though, like Resolve catch a bid, you're starting to see some risk on momentum come back. It's still only up 6% for the year after that. Massive move. Yes, I'll be streaming Trump's speech tonight at 9. So I'll be live, and we'll see what Trump says. All this back and forth is giving me trust issues in this market. Yeah, I don't know anyone who doesn't have trust issues right now in this market. I would imagine the institutional investors themselves have trust issues with what's going on. Altria Group, yeah, we did see a nice little V shape this morning. Look at that. 65 to 63, back to 65, almost break even on the day. Dividend yield of 6.5%, double of Nike's with more growth. Micron, 9% move, $30 up. $30 up. Resolve had a really good earnings. Let's pull up their results. I'd imagine it's shorted pretty heavily, so that could be causing a squeeze here. 47 million. Well, this was yesterday, though. The earnings were yesterday. Oh, wow. It was up 20% yesterday and 20% today. So this has just now been momentum driven. 46 million above estimates. They're on a $232 million run rate. They raised guidance to 360 million for 2026. That's the reason why it's up. Their market cap was 800 million. They were, I mean, it looks like they were relatively cheap on a price to sales basis based on the revenue guide. And now you're seeing some more momentum. SPY, did we break 657? We touched, wow, we did. No, that's pre-market, 657.44. That's pre-market we touched it. We have not gotten back there yet. 656.85 is what we're looking for. Pre-market, we did touch it. But the S&P is up 1%. We're sending people to the moon today. That is happening, right? Is it that Artemis thing that's happening today? And who's doing it? Is it SpaceX? Artemis 2, right? Who's it'll happen April 1st. What time is this happening? No, I know it's NASA, but NASA's doing it with SpaceX, right? Or NASA's doing it themselves? We'll provide live coverage for the pre-launch, launch, splashdown. Okay, I don't know when they're doing this, but they're saying on YouTube. They don't have an exact time. For the first time since 1972. Wow. It'll be at 6 tonight. 6:24. Is this really the first time since 1972? I feel like this should be a way bigger deal then. We're going back to the moon for the first time since the 70s. It's the SLS rocket, not SpaceX. It is a huge deal. I mean, it feels like a huge deal, but I don't know. I feel like I would have heard about it before today, right? Like, I feel like this would have been super hyped up, or something. Like, has Trump even mentioned it? Like, isn't this something he should be talking about? We're going back to the moon as the United States. Yeah, that seems like a pretty big deal. 1972. We are going around the moon, not landing on it. Okay. This is a crappy rocket. It's not a big deal. We did it in the 1960s without computers. Okay, well, if we're live at the time, we will see if we can see it. The space stocks, maybe even that in and of itself is creating a little bit of a bid today. Rock Lab up 5.2. Where is Lemonade? Up 1%. Oscar is up 1.7. Beyond Meat, someone needs to put this company out of their misery. Someone needs to put this company out of their misery. The gross margin profile itself on this thing is just disgusting. And the fact that there was a cult made around this stock, I mean, gross margins are 2.3%. Street thought it would come in at 12%. And Street thought they would lose 26 million. They lost 69 million. We need to put this company out of there. There were people that freaking loaded up 300,000 shares of this thing when it was $2. They were tweeting their screenshots trying to cultivate the Beyond Meat community. Some stocks don't need a community, bro. Some stocks, like, they need a mental institution for the people that are in them. That's more what they need. 382 on Tesla. 382 on Tesla here on the day. Like some of these names, bro, it's like beyond me. Really, this is the thing you're going to create a community around? Like, forget getting a stock pick wrong. This shit is just stupid, bro. This is like a little bit of a brain gets you to realize, like, I shouldn't be attaching myself to a company like this, much less investing my money in it. These communities sometimes are therapies for bag holders. Yes, that's also true. $70.74 on Mr. Robinhood. Yeah, 99.67% from the highs. I don't think I've ever had Beyond Meat. Didn't they have a partnership? No, that was with Burger King, Impossible Burger or something. I don't know, dude. There's just too many deals in the market to be looking at shit like this. Too many deals. Okay, so I'm going to have this 35K clear in my solo 401k, I think tomorrow, hopefully. And what do people think? Do we unload all of it and just buy? Honestly, what I'm thinking is we're going to do 3,000 shares of Grab, which at this price would put us at $10,000. Then we'll have 20,000 left. And I think I just split the 20,000 evenly against these 10 stocks that I picked, that I distributed the $250 to. AMD, Broadcom, Google, Robinhood, Meta, NVIDIA, Oracle, Palantir, Rocket Lab, Tesla. Like, I'm not trying to be super crazy in the retirement fund. People are saying just buy the Qs. Dude, the Qs have a lot of junk in it, okay? People that think, oh, like, just buy the QQQ. Have you ever looked at the 100 names in the QQQ? There's a lot of stupid names that don't deserve to be there. So I really would rather pick, yes, they're prominent names in the market, but they're also safe names that I think will be around for the next 5 years. So I think DCA Grab, we get a nice 3,000 shares in there. I already have 3,000. I have like 3,500 shares. We'll have about 7,500 in total, or 6,500. I might have 4,000 shares. I'll check, but I think it'll be around $7,000 for the shares, and then we'll just distribute the rest. But if we get a new bottom and we lose those Monday lows, and then all my dry powder for the retirement account is spent, I'm going to be upset. So I've got to ask myself also, how, like, do I think the hood's going back to 60? You know, I think Microsoft's going back to, where was Microsoft? 350, 356, which doesn't sound that crazy. It's only a 371. But if it was a structural bottom, then, you know, maybe it's something different. Yeah, I didn't pick Amazon. It wasn't really conscious, bro. I just I was kind of, I don't know. Maybe we swap an Amazon in there as well. I looked at Google. I thought their correction was a little worse, so we picked Google. So we got Google at 273. We had Robinhood at 64. We had Meta at 537. NVIDIA at 166. Oracle 138. Palantir 138. Rocket Lab 57. Tesla 356. AMD 196. Broadcom 292. And realistically, I don't think you can go wrong on any of those names over the next 5 years. Admit, if it's in your retirement account, why do you give a flip if Hood goes back to 30? It's about the bragging rights. Honestly, I really don't care. That's why I'm also like, dude, let's just spend the money and get it over with, because it's not something I'm trying to time. Like, I can't do options in the retirement account, so I'm not even thinking about covered calls or puts or anything. It's honestly something I don't want to worry about. But if it does go back to 30, it would be nice to have some money to buy it at 30 versus bag holding it at 65. So I guess we got to see. Tesla's still moving up on the day. You bought Palantir at 200. I did not buy Palantir at 200. I bought Palantir at 150 after the earnings. We got it at 138 last week. Dude, at 200, 220, I mean, come on, bro. Like, it became obvious it was getting up there. Like, any Palantir bull will tell you, okay, it was a little aggressive. And as much as we would want it to get back there, we knew like it was pushing a $500 billion market cap. Yeah, and even though I think the earnings were incredible, like obviously it's hard for it to keep up there. But I mean, look, man, Burry said 50. If we get a full ceasefire reversal, Palantir's probably going to have a monster earnings again. If those earnings are actually respected in the right macro environment, maybe things change. NVIDIA right there, 177 again on the day. DCA over the next couple months. Yeah, but what if we're going straight to the moon? What if this ceasefire is legit? We're just going up. You know, as much as I want to believe that, it's hard, dude. It's hard to, as much as I want to, this is not Liberation Day. We're not down as much as Liberation Day either. So part of the reason we rallied so hard from Liberation Day is because we fell so hard. We have not, I mean, Buffett's right. We 6-7% is not crazy, man. Like 30% in April of last year, that shit was ridiculous. Like that was just that was generational. This is not the same. So, I mean, there is an argument to be a lot more patient with deploying capital. Average price and grab regular brokerage is 480. In the retirement, I think it's like 550. So retirement account around 550, regular brokerage around 480. Yeah, people forget the tariff crash went from 600 to 480. 600 to 480. Why not Microsoft? There wasn't any main reason. I just kind of picked the names I liked there. One thing that did piss me off about Microsoft is that they unveiled a new product that allows you to condense multiple LLMs together. And I saw that and I was like, dude, how did they not have this in Copilot? Like, part of the reason I think this stock is down is because Copilot, not only it sucks, it's not growing at the level that you would think their CapEx investments would indicate because of the sort of AI ROI inside of the enterprise. Now, Azure is growing like crazy, which is phenomenal, and that's a great business, and Microsoft should not be trading here. But it was surprising to me that Copilot really is dog shit. And I don't even use it, but anecdotally, that's just all I keep hearing is Copilot is not worth, even with the AI features, paying for. And I kind of think that's what the market's upset about when it comes to Microsoft, because that is a software subscription package that is not growing. Still, I don't think it deserves to be, trading at these levels. Are you buying SoFi? Nah, I don't know, bro. SoFi's got a lot of issues right now. Just from not internally. I mean, SoFi as a company is phenomenal. Adding to SoFi here, I don't think it's. I mean, look, it was at 30. It's at 15. At some point, like, you got to buy the dip. It's just this private credit stuff is weird. I think the Muddy Waters thing is nonsense. I just think the perception of SoFi right now, once again, it's, whenever we had debates about SoFi last year, it was always about how they're being perceived, which honestly, perception is more important than reality a lot of times for price action than reality itself. And, when it comes to deploying capital, allocating capital, sometimes that perception ends up being an issue. Like Duolingo is growing earnings. It's not like they're not growing at all. It's just the perception. Google came out with something with their headphones the other day that lets you live translate. The perception is Duolingo's dead, even though their earnings are growing. Even though they're not dead, right? The reality is Duolingo's not dead for now. The perception is they could be dead. And that's the issue. 657, we hit it. We hit it on the S&P, high of day, 657. Okay, we touched it. That's a nice little move for today, 1% up. 1% up. We just got rejected right at 657 above. Let's see if we can keep that going. ARM's already made a big run, man. I mean, congrats if you got into ARM, but I'm not buying ARM after a 20% run. I mean, like, it has made the move. And they deserve it. That guidance was spectacular. Look at it, dude. It fell from 160 to 135. That's what I'm saying. But when people say we haven't made a bottom, then all these stocks got to go back to where they were on Monday. And some of these prices were crazy. ARM fell $30 after they said they would 5x revenue annually. And now it's getting back to break even, but it's still not at the highs that it was at before. Like for this to reverse and go right back down, you would need a real structural macro event like the war continuing and it being obvious that the war is continuing or oil spiking for us to revisit those lows. At least that's what it feels like. 99.20 on crude. 99.20 on crude. Why the Schwab dividend ETF dumping? Well, this thing was going up primarily off the rotation from growth to value, and it is still up 10% this year, which is obviously outperforming. I imagine people will exit and go back to Meta when they think the signs are clear. So that's probably why it's going down a bit. $657 S&P. If all this is real, I sold Exxon and Lockheed Martin at their absolute tops. I also trimmed VG at a near-term top, but I did not get to buy with their capital yet. Well, if this is true and you got out of energy, which energy is still up a lot for the year, then yeah, you might have timed this actually in the right way. It's just, once again, do people actually believe that, you know, we've meaningfully fallen? Let's get an update on some of the stuff that Trump said this morning and also the Supreme Court case.
It's the first time a sitting president has ever listened to oral arguments at the Supreme Court. We'll watch that to see if he makes any comments about the war or anything else to reporters on the scene. Meanwhile, the president giving us a sense of his thinking this morning ahead of his address to the nation this evening, taking to social media to say Iran's new regime president, much less radicalized and far more intelligent than his predecessors, has just asked the United States of America for a ceasefire. We will consider when Hormuz Strait is open, free, and clear. Until then, we are blasting Iran into oblivion, or as they say, back to the Stone Ages. Now, the president also gave an interview to Reuters today saying the U.S. will be out of Iran pretty quickly, but could return for spot hits as needed in the future. And the president said he is absolutely considering an attempt to withdraw the United States from NATO. So a lot of questions around that. Setting up his 9 p.m. speech to the nation tonight, guys. Is this going to be about the end of the Iran war? Is it going to be about ground troops in Iran? You know, both possibilities are open at this point.
Yeah, I mean, there are questions, right, Eamon, about who he means when he means the new head of the regime, right? I mean, they still have the same president as they did before, but I'm not sure that's who the president is referring to.
Yeah, exactly. And we just don't know. I mean, the White House has declined to say whether or not, you know, who exactly they're speaking to in Iran. The question is, you know, was this a statement made in these private negotiations that the Pakistanis are mediating, or some public statement that was made? We just don't know. The White House has been, you know, strategically quiet on who it is that they're talking to, who it is that they hope might take over leadership in Iran after the war. So we'll have to wait and see. Meanwhile, you know, you're looking at the oil situation becoming increasingly dire around the world as entire continents are facing sort of the end to oil shipments from the pre-war era. And we now are starting to go into an era in which oil is going to be extremely constrained in economies around the world.
Yeah, which is why it's so key to hear what the president will say tonight, I guess, about the Strait of Hormuz and whether there will be efforts to open it or not. Eamon, thank you very much. Keep us posted. Eamon Javers in Washington. For more on the market as we kick off the second quarter, let's bring in Renaissance Macro Research.
Again, I'll be live tonight. We'll see what Mr. DJT says. Nebius going red right here, very close to going red. Is that Oracle as well? No, Oracle's been down already. So Nebius in particular got hit right there. CoreWeave also going red. So it's in that same data center ecosystem. I ran seeing some red candles. S&P, we are not breaking 657. Not yet. Got close, but not yet. Amit, are you shaking? If you saw me shaking, it's probably because I shake my legs a lot, which I don't know why I do it. Does anyone else shake their legs when they're sitting? I've done this since I was like in 5th grade. Every time I do it, my mom tells me to stop doing it, but I don't even think it's like anxiety or nervousness. It's just like, it's just a thing that it's hard for me to sit still. It's not even, I don't know. I feel like a lot of people do it. My mom also, dude, my mom hated it, bro. You know what my mom also hated? When I chewed with my mouth open. Like when I was little, if I was chewing with my mom would like, she would go off. Like she would be like, you cannot chew. And it was a good thing because it's inappropriate to chew with your mouth open. But the sound of chewing with your mouth, I mean, it drives her crazy. Bro, by the way, I had a dream last night that I got a dog. And then I got on the elevator this morning to go downstairs and I saw a dog in the this dog thing is because there's two the girl I was sitting next to in the front in the flight from LA had a safety dog. Like I keep getting signs in my life to get a doggy. And I kind of want to see if it's real. But I just know I can't take it. If I stop the meetups, I get because then I'm not traveling, right? But we can't. But also, there's going to be events we have to go through and stuff, even if we're not doing the meetups. Now, granted, there's a ton of dog sitters near me. Like my building has like so many. It wouldn't be that hard to find someone to babysit the dog for a weekend. But still, I don't know if I could commit to taking care of a dog yet. Yeah, it will be expensive, especially if they get sick. There's just so much stuff you have to think about. But I had a dream about it. I'm like, keeps popping up. Oracle still down. SoFi goes green. Microsoft slightly green. Yeah, the worst thing is, what if it starts barking during the stream? It's like, and what if I can't get it to stop barking? Like, I can't continue the stream. Where am I going to put the dog? Like, and I've streamed for like 7-8 hours a day. I'm the dog. I mean, like, unless the dog is super comfortable just sitting in the corner while I stream. That's why you train it. Okay, but that takes time to train a dog, right? I'm not getting a shock collar. You guys are crazy. Not going to shock the dog if he barks, bro. I'm not doing that. It's ridiculous. I feel so bad if I did that. But, if it becomes an issue, then that would be a deterrent to get the dog as well. SpaceX officially filing for IPO. Let's see this S1, baby. Let's see these numbers. Let's see these numbers. Get a purebred already trained. I kind of want to get a puppy though that like I grow with. I don't want to get a dog that's, I don't know. Do puppies come trained? I feel like that's not how it happens. Get an AI dog. Bro, little robot dogs. This shit's going to be crazy. Gonna be crazy. S&P still below 657. What other macro updates do we have? I don't see too many. Talked about OpenAI. Obviously, they're raising a ton of money. $122 billion. Yeah, dude, what I need is a girlfriend to live with me and take care of the dog. That's what I actually need. That would solve a lot of issues because when I'm gone for the majority of the day, I have someone who can take care of it. Granted, she would have to also work from home for that to actually work out because if she has a job, that's not going to work. That's what I truly need. Shopify, 119.80. Grab still up. Snowflake, Palo Alto. Yeah, we're not really seeing too much, guys. I mean, macro news is in for the day. S&P still up. If we even freaking hold above 656, I think all of us would have to be happy. All of us would have to be happy. It definitely helps when there's two people. Yeah, Uzi, I know Uzi and his girlfriend work from home. I would imagine that helps a lot. Oh my goodness, I got charged for a subscription. I forgot to cancel. Tonight I'm going to take an hour and go through every stupid subscription that I have. Like, this is top 5 feelings. Top 5 words. Like, like stubbing your pinky in the door is a top 5. And then seeing a subscription for some shit you don't use anymore that you thought you canceled. Can't afford $35 in this market. Can't do it. And you can't even argue with them to get it back. They'll be like, dude, we sent you an email a couple of days before that it was going to get canceled. Like you didn't cancel it. Dude, it was on a sports website. I wanted to freaking watch a game one day. And there's this freaking Gotham Sports. $34.99. Goodness gracious, dude. This is so nice. It's on my Robin. At least I get 3% on it, but it's so annoying. It's absolutely first world problems. Don't cancel your Duolingo. Yeah, I need to get rid of this, dude. Dude, I still have my Oura ring that charges me $5. I don't even wear the freaking Oura ring. My mom got it for me a while ago, and I had to sign up. And freaking, I haven't been able to cancel the $5 a month on my Apple Card. And it's like, you say you're going to do it, and then you just don't do it. And then a month goes by, and you're like, I can't afford this anymore. Like, I legit can't afford this. Like, this is not, like, I physically cannot pay this money every month. Like, it's getting stupid. Google, $297. $297. What's the stock draft looking like? Let's pull it. We haven't looked at this shit in 2 weeks. This is going to end in June. So we have a couple months left. Matt is up 21.9%. Biggest winner is Rocket Lab. Biggest loser is Dutch Bros. I am up 10.8%. Biggest loser is Duolingo. Down 80%. Biggest winner is Nebius, up 104%. Steve is down 4%. Biggest winner is Micron, 209%. Biggest loser is MicroStrategy, 67% down. Tanner's up 1.8%. Biggest loser is TTD. Biggest winner is ASML. And then Chris is down 4%. Biggest loser is Elf. Biggest winner is Google. Relative to everybody else, I didn't do that bad. I mean, 10.87% is not bad compared to everybody else. What is the S&P? So where was the S&P on June 16th? Matt absolutely killed it with 21%. On June 16th, the stock market or the S&P was 602. It's at 656. So what is that? 656 minus 602. I'm beating the S&P. S&P was up 8.9. I'm up 10.8. And if I didn't have this 80% loss, if I just had anything other than this, I would probably be closer to 15, 16%. So the goal was to beat the S&P. Still got 2 months left. We're beating it. Matt's destroying the S&P by more than double. And then Tanner, Steve, and Chris are not beating it as of now, but we have 2 months left. And we'll see if that works out. Freaking Duolingo, bro. If I didn't have that, I'd be relatively close to, if I had something that was just flat, I'd be at 15, 16%. And although that's less than Matt, that's not double. That's not 50% less than Matt. I'm at 10, he's at 20. That's like, 30, 40% less than Matt. And unless Rocket Lab collapses, which I don't think it will, given the SpaceX IPO, Matt's going to easily win this. He also has ASTS, which the space theme just ended up working out. Sometimes it's just one or two stocks. This is why it's so hard to beat the S&P, because like a lot of people are bad at picking that one or two that makes their year. And given the S&P has 500 of them, it tends to balance out. Nebius going red on the day. But you need one or two. Is oil pumping? Crude is 99.22, still below 100. But it's down. Nebius 102, S&P is 656.60. That's not a girlfriend, that's a housemaid. No, the girlfriend, if she likes a dog, then it's not a maid. It's both of us taking care of the dog. She would just easily be able to take care of it when I'm streaming, and then when I'm done streaming, then I would take care of it. But she would obviously have to like the dog, because if she doesn't like the dog, that wouldn't help. I have an Audible subscription. I never use the effort to cancel that thing. Discount after discount paying off. Dude, it does take effort to cancel some of these subscriptions, which also is annoying. Trump has left the U.S. Supreme Court courtroom as arguments continue. Some of these clips we're getting are pretty interesting. Gorsuch said, "Do you think Native Americans are birthright citizens under your test?" And the Trump lawyer didn't really know what to say here. So it looks like Trump is leaving after some of this, some of these arguments have been orally said.
Do you think Native Americans today are birthright citizens under your test and under your friend's test?
I think so. I mean, obviously, they've been granted citizenship by
Put
statute.
aside the statute. Do you think they're birthright citizens?
No, I think the clear understanding that everybody agrees in the congressional debates is that the children of tribal Indians are not birthright
I
citizens.
understand that's what they said, but your test is the domicile of the parents, and that would be the test you'd have us apply today, right?
Yes, yes. So if a tribal Indian, for example,
Are tribal
gives up
members
allegiance to,
born today birthright citizens?
I think so on our test. Yeah, if they're lawfully domiciled here.
Okay,
And then I'm not sure. I have to think that through. But that's my reaction.
I'll take the yes. That's all right.
All right, so that's what you had, a little bit of the oral arguments. The Iranian Supreme Leader, Cactus, is this his official account? Are we sure this is his official account? It seems like it. I'll try to confirm if this is his official account, but apparently this is what he just tweeted. I emphatically declare that the consistent policy of the Islamic regime of Iran, following the path of Khomeini and the martyred leader, is to continue supporting the resistance against the Zionist U.S. enemy. Okay, so he's not really saying anything that new. He doesn't have the confirmation badge, though. I guess he has 186,000 followers. I mean, this seems like it seems like he's making a brand new one. This is the Ayatollah's son. This is not the real Ayatollah, or the previous Ayatollah had like 4 million followers. But again, we haven't seen the son in person yet. Which a lot of people are wondering, how much do we believe that he's actually alive right now? Okay. All right. All right. Yes. Yes, I said that. I definitely butchered. It's emphatically, right? Not empathetically. Okay. You guys are right. I can't even defend myself there. I cannot defend myself there. That's because I was thinking of empathy, but this is not empathy. This is how fast my brain works. Like, I was thinking of empathy. So when he's saying, I thought it was empathy, empathetically, but it's emphatically, which means you're saying something with a lot of, not compassion or warmth like empathy, but rather with a lot of confidence. That's the difference in definition. This is, as you can see, it's not a joke, bro. One of you guys in LA was like, I think you're doing it as a bit. And I was like, dude, I wish I was doing it as a bit. Like, there's a lot of bits on the show, like the coffee and all that stuff. This is not a bit, bro. This is not a bit. This is not April Fool's. This is how my brain reads words. And I'm not even diagnosed as like dyslexic or anything, so I can't even, blame a disability. Like, it's just, that's how it is. 656. Got a nice little red candle right there. Lost a couple bucks on the S&P right now. All right, 11:30. A little bit more of a red candle. The Atlantic, U.S. military officials are planning potential ground assaults inside Iran, including targeting Karg Island and seizing enriched uranium sites. Oh my gosh. This is so annoying. I mean, if that's true, I don't know if the market's going to like seeing that. Like, I don't like, this is And I wouldn't doubt the U.S. is thinking of taking the oil, which is why the Iranians think the negotiations aren't going anywhere. That would easily escalate the war, take us right back down, if that is real. Tanner says, admit, did I hear you are getting a dog? I want to, Tanner, but I don't know if I can take care of it. Don't know if I could take care of it. Tanner's dog is pretty chill, though, and his cat. Like, I never see them interrupting the stream. I don't know if I'm going to be lucky enough to get a dog that doesn't massively interrupt the stream. You're saying it's an old headline? I mean, it might be old, but then again, if the market interprets it as legit, which I hope it's not, dude. We need to just get that. We're producing enough oil. We don't need Carg Island. Obviously, if the U.S. gets a lot more oil, the U.S. would benefit. But if we have to go through a military operation to get it, no one benefits. So I would hope that's not true. The article just came out today. Would your parents allow a dog for a while? No, my mom is afraid of pets. She had a bad dream when she was younger about a dog and a cat chasing her. And that dream like traumatized her for life. Like genuinely, I think she would learn to deal with it if we had a dog, but every time she sees a dog, she gets like genuinely scared. And yeah, there's no way my parents would take care of it. So I'd have to figure it out. I already know the perfect name for the dog, though. I know the perfect name for the dog. Like, this name, top 5 dog name of all time, in my opinion. I've already said it once on the stream before. But I absolutely have the best name ever for a dog. The dog's name would be Bubba. 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 Tell me that's not the cutest name you've ever heard of. Like, legit, tell me that is not the absolute cutest freaking name you ever heard of. Bubba. I mean, like, don't tell me that's not just an adorable, adorable name.
Sarah, so Bloomberg's reporting that SpaceX has filed confidentially for an IPO, putting Elon Musk's rocket, satellite, and AI company on track for what could be the largest ever public listing. Now, according to that draft paperwork to the SEC, SpaceX is targeting June for a listing date. SpaceX could seek a valuation above $1.75 trillion and raise as much as $75 billion, which would easily top Saudi Aramco's $29 billion record debut. Now, to handle a deal of this size, SpaceX has lined up a heavyweight bank roster that includes Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, Bank of America, and Citigroup. Guys?
Okay, a lot of interest in that one, and with a good portion for retail investors as well. We'll try to get more on that. Thank you, Mackenzie. After this, Snap becoming the...
All right, SpaceX. Put in the chat if you're buying SpaceX. Put in the chat if you are ready to put your money in at a $2 trillion valuation, $1.75 trillion, and buy SpaceX. Bubba is a character on Forrest Gump. Oh, wow. I didn't know that. Should probably watch that movie. That would be a good idea. I did not know that. But I like the name. I like it. Let me do a poll on that. Wow, you guys are saying hell no? You're not even just saying no, you're attaching hell to it? Goodness. Goodness, people. Where's the Tesla Elon cult? And I don't say that in a negative way, but I mean, I assume those are the people that are going to be buying this stock, right? And I'm an Elon fanboy. I wouldn't say I'm in the Elon cult per se. But those would be the people that have to buy this. Are you buying SpaceX at 1.75 trillion? There's the poll. Yes, I've never seen Forrest Gump. I tried one day when it was on Netflix and I got kind of bored. I will watch it eventually. I still haven't finished Casino either. Dude, I realize I can't watch stuff on the plane. Like on the plane, I just listen to music and daydream. Like 6 hours goes by quick just listening to music and thinking. I can't watch a movie. It's just hard to watch movies on the airplane. Where's the hell no option? Wow, 80-20. 80-20 saying no. The ironic thing is it's probably going to pump in the short term. It will be a relatively decent trade, I think. But to keep it elevated, you're going to need a lot of marketing, man. You're going to need a lot of Sawyer Merritts and Farzads of SpaceX. Like, we're going to need new personalities to keep people believing in this thing. I mean, a lot of times people buy stocks based on, the personalities that they follow. And obviously we've seen that with Palantir and myself and Arnie and Matt Money and all these people that at the lows were championing the name and at the highs still defend it, even though the valuation is up there. But that was the story of Tesla. Tesla created the framework for retail personalities to champion a stock. You're going to need new people to champion a $2 trillion company with $15 billion in revenue. Maybe it's going to be the same Tesla influencers, but you're going to need to find some new people. Lilly is up 4% on the day. Lilly moving as well. Dude, Intel buying back their debt, I guess, was the freaking key. 10% on the day. 48.87. 48.87. China expressed serious concerns on Wednesday over Japan's recent deployment of long-range missiles capable of striking enemy bases, a move announced by the Japanese defense minister. Dude, every time I see the headlines about China getting upset about something or expressing their dismay, you start to be so thankful that we're not in a real conflict with China. Like, the U.S.-Iran is one thing. A serious conflict between U.S.-China is another thing. And that's why I think Jason's concerns about buying Intel for the hell of it in case of Taiwan is, you can't tell me Xi doesn't feel a little bit more empowered to invade Taiwan and just be like, oh, so the Americans can invade a country and take all their stuff and we can't do it, even though we have this claim to ancestral ties, even though obviously if you're from Taiwan, you have a fundamental disagreement with that. You believe in Taiwanese sovereignty. But the point is, if Trump can say we can take Iran, Xi will be like, well, if the U.S. is going to do it, then we can do it. And that's just a dangerous game to think if it would happen on a larger scale. As the S&P once again tries to go for 657. I don't know. Wow. SpaceX, 16 billion, 1.75 trillion. Meta, 200 billion, 1.45 trillion. That's crazy, dude. We aren't taking Iran. It's not about taking Iran. It's about the perception of us claiming that we have access to Iran and that we can do whatever we want, right? Obviously, we're not going to take it. And Xi would be more intense with wanting to literally take Taiwan. But just the idea that we feel we can do whatever we want. You can't tell me that doesn't empower some of the other superpowers to feel they can more justified. VG down 7% on the day. NVIDIA, not at 177 yet, but it's holding on to this 1.2% move. Yeah, and then when Trump says Cuba is next and we can take over Cuba, all of that as well is, I think, one of the best stuff that some of our adversaries want to hear. Lilly, by the way, it looks like the reason they're up is because of these GLP pills from an oral perspective starting to get a lot of momentum.
Deo. So this once daily pill will start shipping from Lilly Direct on Monday. And Lilly says it'll be available at pharmacies and on telehealth platforms, quote, shortly after.
But it's more accessible. It's easier to fit into your daily routine. We have great data on maintenance. A lot of people reach their goals on injectable and then want to go to something less invasive than injecting themselves once a week. Some people don't mind that, but some people do. So here's an oral option. Or some people have been held back by that barrier and now they can have an oral option. Or maybe some people couldn't afford it or didn't have insurance coverage. We hope to expand insurance coverage. And of course, it will be more affordable even for those paying out of pocket.
And price will be a major factor here. So people with insurance coverage can get Foundeo for $25 a month. That's with a coupon from Lilly. And people paying cash or out of pocket can get it for $149 to $349 a month. And that's depending on a dose. Remember, that was thanks to the deal that Lilly struck with the Trump administration last year. And starting in July, seniors on Medicare can get the pill and other GLP-1s for $50 a month as part of that deal. And again, price is a huge factor here. And that's especially important because this pill isn't effective as Lilly's weekly shot Zepbound. People lose about half as much weight with this pill. And that's really the debate on Wall Street now, is how big of a drug can this become when people seem perfectly fine giving themselves a shot once a week. So we are all very interested to see how this shakes out, guys.
I still think a pill seems a lot easier than a shot. I mean, doesn't Novo have a pill that's been approved? Is there any early data on how that's working out?
They do have a pill that's approved, and that's been a very strong launch. And even Dave Rick says that they look to that as proof that there is demand for a pill. And one interesting distinction here that Lilly is making is that their pill is easier to take. So with Novo's, you have to take it first thing in the morning on an empty stomach with just a little bit of water. And so Lilly is really leaning into the convenience here, saying that you can take it with your other medicines, you can take it with, eat whatever you want to do. And so I think that'll be really interesting to see how that competition between these two longtime rivals plays out.
So I had dinner with Josh, OG Hood member, last week before I went to LA. And he worked for a chemical company that contracts with a bunch of these pharmaceutical companies. And he told me the demand for GLP is like, he couldn't even describe how big it is. Like, we're talking about hundreds of billions per year in perpetuity, the demand that they're seeing. He was here for like some conference that they were having in the chemical space. And he had to make he had to do a big presentation and all this stuff. And his entire focus was on this idea of GLP is, and as a subcontractor or distributor for some of these pharmaceuticals, I mean, there's a lot of business that companies like the one he works at are able to get because Novo and Lilly and Pfizer, they are all on this idea of like, well, let's help people lose weight artificially. Yeah, like 1/3 of Americans are on this shit. So it is a big industry. And obviously, it's controversial. Look, I think it's controversial. One of the goals in April, now that I'm not traveling, is I really want to get back to a serious workout routine. And, I feel like I'm a bit more motivated than ever, just given, it's not really motivation that's lacking. It's just, again, when you're traveling to 4 events back to back to back, it's really tough. And although that shouldn't be an excuse, it ends up becoming an excuse. So I want to get a month of just being on the right trajectory. And then when the traveling starts, because you have all that momentum, you're more inspired to make sure that momentum doesn't fade. So, and I kind of believe in doing it naturally, but there are a lot of people that don't give a shit. I mean, they're just forget the natural part. Like, give me the pill, give me the shot, and get rid of the weight. And, I think there are definitely a subset of people that feel it's unnatural and they want to actually work out and exercise and just cut out sugar and do it the healthy, organic way, like has been done since the beginning of time. And then there's a lot of people that are like, that is too much work. And I don't know what that says about us as a society. I personally could never imagine taking those. I feel like it's for people that are obese, like morbidly obese, and they need to lose the weight soon. But you got people in Hollywood and celebrities that are just it's not about that. It's just getting back to where they are. So yeah, it's one of those things where the industry is massive, and obviously Lilly and Novo have been benefiting of that. Where is Novo year to date? Novo still, dude, Novo was up at 1.30% this year. Novo is now down 30.1%, 36.58 is what you've got on Novo. Fasting is the natural GLP. Yeah, and people shouldn't undermine fasting. Fasting, and obviously you have to do it in a healthy way, but the benefits to fasting, I mean, you've got ancient scriptures talking about the benefits to fasting. It is one of the most interesting ways to clear your gut and the mental and sort of almost spiritual resistance you create by fasting. There's definitely a lot that is beneficial there. Wow, SPY, high of day, folks, 657.40. Are we going to see 658? Are we going to see 658 right here as we're moving? How is it almost 12 o'clock? Where does the time 12 freaking, it does not feel like it's almost 12 p.m. 11:46. Investors poured almost $1 billion into the inverse oil ETF, SCO, in March, its biggest monthly inflow ever. The fund aims to profit when oil drops, but instead plunged 41%. I didn't even know this was a thing. I feel like I should have known of this. Maybe I saw the headline, but I forgot the ticker. SCO, this is how you go short oil by buying the ETF. It is down 57% year to date. I mean, we talk about bottoms. If you're calling a top to oil, maybe that could be a play. Now, granted, even if oil is top, that doesn't mean oil is going to come down, which is how this thing is going to actually move. 871. It was at freaking 19 in January. Admit you got used to California time. Dude, that is so true. Like, it feels like it's only 8:47 California time. 12 p.m. is crazy. Feels like the market closed earlier in California because like 8:40 to 1 o'clock felt quicker than 11:40 to 4 o'clock. And I know that doesn't make sense because it's the same time, but it just felt like the market would close quicker. But it doesn't feel like we're close to 12. If you stop taking GLP, you'll have issues, according to a friend of mine who's a doctor who said that. So I'm worried about long-term issues, bullish for long-term customer retention, though. Oh, that is so bullish for long-term retention. Dude, again, when I was having dinner with Josh, he was like, dude, the GLP thing is like, he's like unbelievably, he thinks it's super bearish HIMS, though, because HIMS can't, you can't just keep copying these types of drugs to be able to sell them. And I know they have the partnership with Novo now, and maybe that's going to be a better catalyst. But yeah, it blew my mind the way he was talking about it. I didn't know it was that big of a deal. But now I get why Hims copied them and had these compounded versions of it. It's a big market. Lilly's not even at all-time highs, by the way. 5% up. Oh, but Lilly was at 1,100 at one point. Do you have Robinhood banking? Yes. The problem is they don't allow business banking, so none of my money can actually go there easily. But I do have banking. They need to add support for Zelle. That would also be nice because a lot of people, including myself, use Zelle. Vlad did say that they now have about $1.5 billion in deposits in less than 5 months, which is crazy. 100,000 funded customers. So the launch on Robinhood banking has done very well. We now just need to see the continuation of that growth. All right, guys, I think that's it for me. I got to get out of here. I will be back for the market close. We don't have any earnings today, so we will just talk about what happened. We'll go through some headlines. Should be a pretty chill close, hopefully, if nothing changes. 657.24 is where I'm leaving you on the market open. What is the next Basis Point podcast? We have a lot of episodes ready for April. So we are going to get into the grind starting this month. You should be getting an episode at least every week, if not multiple times a week. So we have a decent chunk of guests lined up. Should be some exciting guests. We're making some really cool connections, getting in contact with some really cool people. Steve is now, taking his brand very seriously. So it helps when both people are actively producing content just because it's getting more distribution. And dude, some of our clips have gone super viral on X. If you don't follow us on X, these Josh Brown clips have done millions of views. And, part of the way to grow a podcast is to have the smaller moments of it, try to get some traction so that people can tune into the long form. And if you have good guests, it's easier to make that happen. Like this one got 71,000. The other one got freaking 700,000. We had another one get 300,000. So We're gonna keep growing it, and I think you'll get a lot more episodes pretty soon. I'll be back at 9 p.m. as well, so we'll do the market close, and then we'll have maybe Steve will stream it with me. I don't know, 9 p.m. live. We'll see. We'll see what Trump says. I think I think it's only gonna be like 15, 20 minutes. I don't think it's gonna be like an hour-long thing, so it might be a relatively quick thing, and then we're done, and we'll see how the futures react to it. Okay, so why do they have to give me this word, bro? After empathetically, which was the actual word of the day. That was the real one. Okay, I'm going to take my time with this. No, it's ob. Ob or ob? Obsequious. Lock it in. Obsequious. That's what I'm going with. Obsequious. Excessively eager to please or obey. Overly submissive. An obsequious tone on earnings calls often signal more about insecurity than confidence. All right, let's see, bro. Obsequious. Let me see if I can get it. Let's freaking see.
Obsequious.
There we go. There we freaking, I did not cheat on this. I did not. There we freaking go. Dude, I don't cheat on any of them. If I wanted to cheat on them, I would cheat on them every single day and get everyone right. That's now it's maybe once every 20 of these we get, but obsequious, baby. That was also not that hard though, because the Q-U-I-O-U-S, like what was I going to say? Quiosis or something? Like that's when you guys would be saying, all right, he's joking. Like if I said obsequiosis, if I actually said that, I would totally understand people being like, he's doing a bit. I didn't though, because that's just even I have some level of a bright line for how to say these words. So there you go. That's what we got. Word of the day. Yes, I needed a W. It's been a minute. It has been a minute. All right, we'll be back on the market close. Thank you everybody for joining. If you did not catch the LA meetup pictures, I'm putting that in the chat. You guys can check them out. It was a great time. So hopefully people enjoyed. Also, make sure if you are interested, you can follow our boy Brandon, who took these pictures for us. He's actually from the community, and I really love supporting people that are in the community themselves. Because if we can support their business, if you have your own event where you need a photographer, I took one look at his website and I was like, this is definitely our photographer. So he is local to LA. He also just had a baby, which is incredible. We didn't even know if he would be able to make the meetup because, his wife might've been in labor, but he ended up making it. Putting his Instagram right there in the chat. You can follow him, check him out. His name is Braden. And we will have Chicago on May 9th. Jason will be there again. I talked to him yesterday. Steve will be there. I think we're going to have a lot more infrastructure. As we learn, as we get better at throwing these events, it's just going to get better and better. And the experience should get better and better as well. So Chicago link is right there, May 9th. We'll see everybody there. That's Braden's IG. You can check out the photos. And we'll be back for the market close. Where's the S&P? 657.40, baby. The day of the meetup is the top. The day after is the bottom. So far, that's how it's worked out. 657.50. Hopefully we stay with this and continue it going into the end of the day. All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a great one. I will see you guys on the market close. Bye, everybody.